Evening, everyone. I'll call the regular town council meeting of November 12th to order at 5 p.m. So we've got the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
I have none, your worship, thank you.
Thank you. Would someone perhaps put forth the motion?
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? It is carried. Next up, we have the minutes of October 28th, the regular council meeting. Everybody's had a chance to review those, so were there any edits that somebody has come across?
I'll move that council adopt the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's carried. Now we have the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 organizational meeting. Anybody notice any edits in those? Someone care to move their acceptance?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll put a motion on the floor of the council, adopt the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 organizational meeting as of council as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If there's no objection from council, I would like to move presentations forward. So section 5, presentations by STARS with Mrs. Ardan, Senior Municipal Relations Liaison with STARS. Anybody have any objections to that? Okay, then, if you would come forward, and she's on her way to drive to Grand Prairie after this, so.
Yeah. There's a PowerPoint.
So much. I very much appreciate the opportunity to be first as well. I'm very pleased to meet with you again this year and bring you your annual update. Next year, December 1st, STARS will celebrate 40 years of serving Albertans and always maintaining as a charitable entity, meaning that there is no cost to the patient. This has not been possible for 40 years without partnership. We thank the town of Peace River for your partnership as well. So I'm sure you heard the greatest news this year that we did finalize having another long-term 10-year service agreement with Alberta Health Services. Previously had a 10-year agreement which expired in 2020 at 20% government funding. So now this is at block funding of $15 million per year. This is about 44% of our operational costs of 3 bases in Alberta. So still leaving 56% that must be fundraised each year. This is a bit of a year in review. So the numbers continue to increase. Mission rate and mission volume, the demand is increasing. We now, through our STARS Emergency Link Center in Calgary, have received last fiscal year over 37,000 emergency requests. Certainly, we do not fly on every single one of these missions, but our transport positions are involved to provide the oversight. STARS has been named the critical care provider in Alberta. So that means that we oversee every critical call, regardless of the mode of transport. They may be going by, that patient may be going by ground ambulance or Alberta Health Services fixed wing or STARS. Also, we also dispatch Halo and Hero out of northeastern Alberta and southeastern Alberta. So it is a very united effort in being able to respond and provide critical care. Last fiscal year, we flew over 3,900 missions across our 6 bases in Western Canada. We are now currently at $11.4 million per year cost per base in Alberta. So this is also a significant challenge when we are needing to fundraise 56%. On the right-hand side, you'll see incident types, just to kind of round up and give you an idea of the type of missions that we mainly fly most of the time. Cardiac and stroke is roughly 20%. Vehicle incident is also about 20%. Other medical issues as well as trauma. So it gives you a good idea of what we are responding to each year. Averaging 11 missions every day from our 6 bases. So this is going to give you an idea of where we're at in our municipal support across the province and into northeastern BC. Since I last presented to you, we have added 10 more rural municipalities, municipal districts or counties, as well as 14 more urban municipalities like the town of Peace River. So we're currently at 94% of all of Alberta is in municipal partnership. So the light gray areas will show you those that are contributing at a less than $2 per capita, but more than $1 per capita each year. The navy blue now represents all regional leaders that are participating and contributing at a minimum $2 per capita up to $90 per capita and everything in between. So you can see that the majority of the entire province is supportive of this. It is a partnership amongst all the municipalities to ensure that everyone has access to a robust health and safety network. The teal green represents our 9 municipal leaders. These are all those that have continuously contributed. They have reached more than $500,000 in giving accumulative, and they are now represented on the helicopter. So they are the municipal leaders. Their contributions are from $100,000 to over $200,000 per year, and we are a line item in their protective service budget annually. The red outlines represent those municipal districts and counties that have united regional partnership of every town and village that lies within their county's boundaries. But they are also a supporter along with their county. So you can see that we are very much closing the loop and having a united effort across the entire province. This is unheard of in our country, maybe even in the world, to have this kind of united effort to ensure that everyone has access to critical care wherever they may travel. For Town of Peace River, this is up to September 30th of this year. Almost a 5-year overview of what has been happening. Now you'll see that there's been, on an overall average, about 10 missions per year within Town of Peace River between scene calls and critical interfacility transfers from your local hospital. Significant increase in 2022 and 23, as well as 16 calls so far this year, and we have 3 more months to report to you for the end of the year. So we're well over the 10 missions per year average. In addition, STARS is now not only providing physical response, but also virtual response for your local medical professionals. We can provide critical care guidance as well as procedural guidance through our Emergency Link Center virtually. So there is a encrypted, secure link that we can provide to your physicians and nurses. And then they can actually, through an iPhone or a laptop at the hospital, actually show our critical care physicians the condition of the patient, and we can provide procedural guidance. You know, lots of times they do not see, like intubation, for example, they don't see this every day. We do. And so we're able to provide that. So even if we're not responding physically, we can respond and assist your medical professionals virtually. This is an update to the postal code project on the left-hand side. Since my last update last year to you, there's been 5 more area residents flown, 3 with the Peace River postal code and 2 from Grimshaw area. On the right-hand side, you will see the light blue outline of the area of Peace River. And within the entire area, all the red dots or the listings across the bottom, these represent all the different areas where Peace River residents were flown. So in total, 105 total area residents flown, 70 were Peace River residents specifically. 43 residents were picked up in Peace River itself, and 62 area residents were flown from 22 other locations, those red dots that are represented all across the province. Accidents and illness do not happen just because you're close to home. Accidents and illness happen anywhere. This is to give you an idea of the types. It's a day in the life of STAR's medical crew. So we are averaging 11 missions overall per day. This is one day that shows 18 different missions. So now you'll see the different bases that were responding as well as the mission time. But when you look into the description now, you'll see how many different critical situations can happen all in a day. And then the fact of whether or not we transported the patient disposition. So number 3, you'll see that we brought the NICU specialty team. And so that particular patient was transported by ground ambulance with the specialty team that we provided, the NICU team. Number 6, the mission was canceled, no transport, because once we arrived, it was deemed that we were not medically required. So we would be available for another patient, critical patient. Number 7, the mission was canceled, alternate transport. So our transport physicians decided that particular patient, it was best that they go by either ground or fixed wing. So we possibly did a rendezvous and that patient went on another mode of transport. Number 10, Grand Prairie. The patient was transported by ground with STAR's AMC. So this particular patient, it was not in their best interest in order to fly. It could have been a bariatric patient. Maybe it was someone with real severe trauma and respiratory trauma where we needed to be on the ground. And so our crew will go with the critical patient on ground ambulance, on Alberta Health Services fixed wing, 4 stars. Any mode of transport that our critical transport physicians deem is necessary and what is in the best interest of that patient. We also have a brand new medication now for hemorrhage control. We have seen so many cases of severe trauma now. We've been for more than 10 years, like we were an innovative leader in the world, that we were the very first to bring universal blood on board on the helicopter. 2 units of universal blood, because we've seen so many trauma cases. We've now increased that to 4 units of blood that we carry. And with this new medication, Fibrogen, so now it helps to form blood clots in a massive trauma patient. And so now, after we apply the first 2 units of blood, we can apply the new medication for hemorrhage control and then give that patient the additional 2 units of blood in order to help provide, stop the bleeding and provide them that extra time so that patient does not bleed out. So this is brand new information. We are the first in Canada to bring this forward, again, as a new tool in our critical care toolkit. After 27 years, we flew our 37 years, we flew our very longest mission in STAR's history. It was for a hunter in very far northern mountainous regions of BC on a riverbank at dusk. We were absolutely the only response available for this particular patient because we could fly at night and we were bringing that critical care intensive care unit environment in the helicopter and the critical care expertise. More than 2,400 liters of fuel were used, more than 1,700 kilometers flown, 8.2 total flight hours, more than 5 hours in the air managing this critical patient. One life saved. It was a miraculous, wonderful reunion with his crew at the Grand Prairie base, him and his family. And this is testament to STARS providing critical care anywhere. So thank you, Town of Peace River. We continue to value the partnership that we share. There is many benefits to your residents locally here through STARS physical and virtual response, especially to assist your local medical professionals. Together, we will continue to enhance rural health care. Your residents have access to STARS 24/7 all across Western Canada, where we have 6 bases, starting in Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, Grand Prairie, and we serve the Eastern Corridor of BC. Always remembering that a life is saved every day, but it's your partnership that has made this possible and continues to help us to be available for the next patient and no cost to that patient. Our request to you is for your consideration during your budget deliberations that we would like to once again acknowledge you as one of our regional leaders. In past years, you were one of our regional leaders at a $2 per capita rate. We would like to ask for your consideration so that we can acknowledge you as a regional leader anywhere from $1 to $2 per capita in joining 94% of Alberta's municipalities in partnership. We appreciate your consideration and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. STARS is certainly a valued service across the province. And was there a new helicopter or something like that that came into being too?
Yes, in 2022, we finalized a more than $150 million capital campaign for 10 H-145s. So now all are paid for. All 10 helicopters are paid for, and we are completely H-145 operational.
Councilors, any questions?
Yeah, well, you had mentioned that you're serving more people. Is that just because like there's more people in the province because it's growing, or is it like outpacing the growth of the province? Like more people are just having bad things happen, or is it that your service is just expanding and you're able to serve more? What's driving the increase that you're able to do?
I would say that it's a combination of all those things. As you know, we have grown in 2012. We grew from 3 bases in Alberta, having started in 1985, to 6 bases across Western Canada. That certainly showed a significant increase in growth. Out of the 3,900 missions flown last fiscal year, about 1,800 were in Alberta alone. So increasing population, we have baby boomers that are, having more medical issues as well. So it's a combination of many different factors. But in the beginning years of STARS, the first couple of years, 1985, 1986, we flew 50 to 60 missions per year. Now we're flying, like almost 1,800 in Alberta alone. It's just a significant gradual increase as we increase population. We have new generations coming, we have babies and newborns. We just responded not so long ago. I showed you that we brought the NICU team, so babies have complications just like older people as well. So it's a combination of lots of factors.
Councilor Ford?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Do you, with the responses you fly to in whatever area, with all the partnerships do you have any specialized training that you share, let's say, for instance, with our first responders, with our fire department or Grimshaw? Do you have that sort of helicopter training or response training for when something like that arises?
Certainly, we have been going through kind of a revamping of our outreach program. Previously, years ago, we did really have the opportunity to work more closely with a lot of our fire departments. Now, we're finding that there's so many different departments that are acquiring new members. So we have put the landing zone training online. So there, you can go straight to stars.ca, and there's a form that you can fill out to request landing zone training, that would be online. So we're trying to mitigate a lot of the costs in that area. We are, continuing to work with rural hospitals through, Rapid and, the physician, line in order to be able to work more closely with your local medical professionals. We do still have the opportunity, as I said, we are still revamping that program on trying to have some opportunities to work with local fire departments on other training. We're looking at a more regional aspect though, where one fire department in an area might bring in all the surrounding ones so we can actually mitigate cost and have an opportunity to work with several different departments, you know, and come out for a day. So there's different factors that are all involved again, as we try to repackage how this would look. But it's the main factor for the fire departments is more the landing zone training. So being able to do that online is really a cost savings and still yet a great benefit to all the fire departments that we work with, especially when they're acquiring new members.
Thank you. That would be valuable information that maybe administration could give to our department for Northern Conference.
Councillor Shannon or Councillor Carr, any questions you want to bring forth?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation, and it's great to see that things are moving along, including with the new blood treatment part of things.
Yes,
And it's, I know that, well, STARS is much appreciated when it's needed, and it needs to be supported just because you do need it at times. So thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation.
thank you very much. I did bring you the brand new calendar. So the 2025 calendar is out. It's available online as well to anyone that would like to go online and purchase. And the newsletter and of course your Ally Impact Report too. We thank you very much for your continued support, and we really value what we're able to do together in enhancing rural healthcare.
So thank you, and safe
Thank you.
travels tonight too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're now into public hearings, and first one, we are going to be looking at a bylaw number 2162, amendment to the Municipal Development Plan bylaw number 1874, amending policy 621. And Ms. Modi's gonna help us with this, but first of all, if someone would put forth a motion to open the hearing. Okay, Councillor Ford.
Oh.
Okay, Councillor Ford moved that the council open the public hearing with regard to bylaw number 2162, being a proposed amendment to municipal development plan bylaw number 1874 by amending policy 621 at 5:24 p.m. Thank you. And so I now declare the statutory public hearing open at 5:24 p.m. And note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 78606 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. So I request the manager of planning and development to confirm the purpose of the meeting.
Purpose of the meeting or the public hearing is to consider an amendment to the municipal development plan, and specifically policy 6.2.1 of that MVP.
Okay, and Ms. Modi, if you could state when the public hearing notice was advertised.
The public hearing notice was advertised on our website and Facebook page and posted on the public bulletin board on November 1st and again on our Facebook page on November 6th.
Okay, are there any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package that need to be read into the record?
There are none.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to request that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name and that the presentations be brief and to the point. So I'll now call on Development Officer Ms. Modi to present.
Thank you. So I am here to present on bylaw 2061. This is 2162. This is a bylaw that's related to a proposed amendment to the land use bylaw that would add automotive electric services as a use class to our land use bylaw and would allow it as a discretionary use within the Riverfront Development District, which is within the downtown area of our community, as well as the mixed commercial and residential district, which is also in the downtown. That bylaw received second reading in March of this year. However, that proposed change is inconsistent with the direction of the municipal development plan, so an amendment to this plan is required. The policy that we are talking about states that council shall commit to the implementation of the vision of the downtown as stated in the 2009 Enhancing Downtown Renewal and Tourism Report. And that downtown renewal and tourism report specifically and clearly states that no industrial or light industrial, including garages, will be permitted in the downtown. The MDP also identifies the downtown area as bounded by the CN rail line to the north and east, the Heart River to the south, and the Peace River to the west on the future land use concept map, which you can refer to on the second page of the report. So that policy is directly contradictory to adding automotive electric services to the riverfront and mixed commercial residential district of the land use bylaw, as that use would be, or as a specialty service type of automotive repair business that is, or garage that is licensed by AMVIC or Alberta Motor Vehicle Industry Council. Therefore, the MDP amendment is required to ensure that the land use bylaw aligns with our MDP. The MDP does require this alignment between the two documents and policy 1312 of the MDP. So the intention of the downtown renewal report was to equip the town with a vision and a way of moving forward that would transition the downtown to a more people-focused and scaled environment to encourage redevelopment of more commercial retail housing in the downtown. Allowing a new automotive use in the downtown is inconsistent with that direction. However, while that direction and that vision, we have made some progress towards that in certain areas of the downtown, there are still challenges to that transition. In particular, we do have a number of buildings in the downtown that remain industrial in style. They're auto-oriented with overhead doors, and they provide direct access into the building. And those sites are likewise supported by a built environment that's also auto-oriented with parking that's immediately in front of the building. There's no defined pedestrian paths, etc. And transitioning the built environment, both the public realm, the streets and the sidewalks, as well as the buildings, would require both significant public and private sector investment. So changing the operative clause of policy 621 gives the town greater discretion in its decision-making, allows us to make a decision that's not 100% consistent with the land use bylaw, or sorry, with the MDP, on a case-by-case basis. So that gives us the option to say yes to an automotive electric service use when that development permit comes forward. Realistically, this change, which does support that type of use in the downtown, will likely discourage redevelopment because these sites remain economically viable in their current form. But there are other areas of downtown we can focus on encouraging that transition where there are not current buildings. So the options before council tonight include providing second and third reading to 2162 or defeating the bylaw. We did receive feedback from Northern Sunrise County, who have indicated that they have no concerns, and there was no additional feedback on this bylaw before the report was written. Administration's recommendation is that council close the public hearing today and also provide second and third reading to the bylaw this evening.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions of clarity for Ms. Modi at this point?
So reading this takes care of everything downtown, whether it's a business on River Road or a current business that could be shut down on Main Street. It encompasses that whole downtown area.
The policy direction that we're changing in the MDP gives us that greater discretion everywhere in the downtown, yes.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will now call on those in favor of the bylaw. If anyone wants to step forward and tell us their points.
Which bylaw are you guys playing with here?
That's a very good question, actually. It is the bylaw dealing with the automotive electrical services.
But they're adding discretionary use to the same.
61.
Yeah.
And 2163. So we're dealing with a couple of bylaws tonight, and this one is bylaw 2162. We're amending the municipal development plan bylaw, and the topic is the automotive electrical services. And yes, it would be as a discretionary. Okay, seeing no one stepping forward who wants to speak in favor, I'll now call on those opposed to the bylaw. Okay, I will now call on any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard on this bylaw. Okay, councillors, any further questions? Okay, any concluding statement, Ms. Modi? Or anyone else could jump forward and have a concluding statement too, but, okay, seeing that all the presentations have been made, I will now declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion to effect that closure. We did the opening. Councillor Shannon, would you like to move to close the public hearing?
Sure. I moved it. Oh, I'm just up one here. Yes, I'll make that motion.
So the Councillor Shannon is moving the hearing to be closed at 5:32. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Modi. Okay, next up, we have another hearing, and this is with respect to bylaw number 2163, an amendment to land use bylaw number 1891, which is adding indoor participant recreation services to M1 and M1B districts. So, would someone move that the hearing be opened?
Yeah, I'll move that council open the public hearing with regard to bylaw number 2163 being a proposed amendment to the land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participant recreation services to M1 and M1B districts at 5:33.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Okay, it is carried. So, let's see, I hereby declare the statutory public hearing open at 5:33 and note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7(8), 606 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. I request the manager of planning and development to confirm the purpose of the hearing.
To amend the land use bylaw to add indoor participant recreation services to the M1 and M1B districts of the land use bylaw.
Okay, and when was the public hearing notice advertised?
Public hearing notice was advertised on the town's website, on our Facebook and social media pages, and on the town bulletin board on November 1st, 2024, and again on the 6th for Facebook.
Thank you. And are there any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package that need to be read into the record?
No, those that were received are attached to the agenda package.
Thank you. Okay, so once again, I ask that all persons giving oral presentations that clearly state their names and that presentations be brief and to the point. So I will now call on the development officer to brief us.
Thank you. So bylaw 2163, as we said, adds indoor participant recreation services to the M1 and M1B district. This bylaw comes forward because an applicant has applied to do so. TH Bodybuilding has opened at 8102 Ave in the M1 district of the town. In this district, currently gyms are neither permitted or discretionary use within the district. And the applicant has applied to remedy that situation for themselves. The Planning and Development Department has also become aware that the Mighty Peace Barbell Association is an additional unauthorized gym that's operating in the M1B district of the town, which is just north of Highway 2. So the bylaw was drafted in order to address both situations, as they're very similar. Bylaw 2163 adds indoor participant recreation services, which is the use class within our bylaw that includes a gym to both of the industrial districts. So the indoor participant recreation services use class is defined as development providing facilities within an enclosed building for sports and active recreation where participants are where patrons are predominantly participants and any spectators are incidental and attend on a non-recurring basis. And this can include a wide variety of uses, including athletic fields, fitness clubs of a variety of types, curling, hockey rinks, bowling alleys, etc. The use class includes a wide variety potentially of recreational businesses, including trampoline parks, rock climbing, obstacle course gyms, etc., which could benefit from a larger scale of industrial buildings. The use class is currently allowed within a number of districts in the town. You can see it in table 1, the districts and how they are enabled, and also on the maps of figure 2, which show the areas of town that are where the use is currently allowed as either permitted or discretionary use. And side by side, the proposed industrial lands that would be added if this bylaw moves forward. So the areas where it is currently allowed are areas that are intended to provide products and services directly to consumers or residents. They are typically areas of the community that are developed to a higher standard with elements such as appropriate lighting, accessible vehicle parking, pathways, and sidewalks. There are also areas where the neighboring land uses are likewise predominantly providing services to individual consumers or residents. Adding the use to the M1 and M1B districts adds an additional approximately 250 properties to the use class where this use may be considered, particularly on the west side, which could diversify the services that are easily accessible to the residents on the west side of Peace River. The purpose of both the districts is to provide lands for industrial development, and services in those areas in the industrial areas are intended typically to provide service to commercial or industrial businesses rather than to individuals, being the distinction between kind of the different types of districts. The sites in the industrial areas are typically larger and include on-site and outdoor storage areas, have less accessible parking, sidewalks or pathways, and lighting. The neighboring land uses within the industrial areas may also generate a greater degree of commercial vehicle traffic and also may generate other nuisance factors. Listing the use as a discretionary use allows the development authority to consider whether the use is appropriate at specific sites and allows the town to add conditions to the development where they may be needed to ensure compatibility with adjacent lands. Further, it does provide those neighboring landowners and business owners the option to appeal should a proposed indoor participant recreation service be a concern based on its proximity to an industrial business. This approach is consistent with many other municipalities, and we have provided an example of some municipalities that deal, obviously the use class is slightly different, everybody's land use bylaw is a little different, and the names that they are identifying are slightly different, but ultimately Whitecourt, for example, does allow their equivalent use in some of their industrial areas, but not in their heavy industrial district. The city of Edmonton does allow minor indoor entertainment in their business employment zone, which is a type of industrial for the city, but not in their medium and heavy industrial. Similarly, Slave Lake allows it in a number, Drumheller, and Edson. Grimshaw, on the other hand, does not allow this type of use in their industrial area. The bylaw was advertised, as I said earlier, starting on November 1st. We have received feedback from Northern Sunrise County that says that they have no concerns, and 2 letters of support for the proposed bylaw were provided and are attached for council's consideration. I did not see all the options here. So ultimately, council does have the option to defeat the bylaw or to provide second and third reading. Administration's recommendation is to close the public hearing this evening and provide second and third reading to the bylaw to add the use to the districts. I can take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Councilors, questions? Councilor Ford?
Yes, so thank you for that. So my understanding of this, because I know we talked about it once before, so my understanding of this, there's 2 properties that are currently operating that are affected. That's the one on 102nd Avenue to New Gem. And then I think the other one is the Barbell Association, which, so by passing second and third reading will allow them to operate as is.
It'll allow them, yes, to apply for the permits that are required to operate in those locations, but we'll have the ability to say yes. Yes.
Any other questions, councilors? Councilor Carr?
Yes, I'm just curious, how long have these businesses operated? And would they have not applied for a development permit when they first went into these properties?
No, the business at 8102 102nd Ave, the business that applied for the amendment, they moved their business up to the West Hill this late spring, early summer. And at that time, we communicated to them that they did need to apply for permits and that at this point, the site was not something that we could consider, which is why we indicated to them that they needed to apply for the land use bylaw amendment. The other location has flown under the radar of planning and development, so we weren't aware of it operating at that location, but since 2018, so they have been there for quite some time. Oh, did everybody hear that well enough? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Did they not apply for a permit when they first moved in there? Would they not have had a development permit when they first moved into that property?
I don't have any record of it.
Any other questions for clarity right now? Okay, thank you, Ms. Modi. So I'll now call on those in favor of the bylaw. If someone wishes to step forward to the table, turn the mic on so it's red, and then announce your name and tell us your points of view.
Hi, yeah, my name is Ryan Cardinal. I was the applicant for this initially with KH Bodybuilding, and we had moved up to the West Hill there after we had already had a functioning gym. I guess downtown, it would fall under the downtown area. Sorry, I'm not too well versed on the town's
It's
bylaws
complicated.
and zoning. I'll admit that. So we were just looking for more space, ultimately, is what it came down to. And I think naturally, I think any business owner does is they look at the best bang for your buck. And being as it's a small town, and I'm really new to all this, really, I kind of just looked at what the best price was for where we could fit our stuff and accomplish our goal. I didn't apply for a bylaw amendment right away because I didn't know I had to do that. Originally what happened was I came to inform at the time, it was Susan Martineau, that we had accomplished some of the checklists that we had needed for a safety inspection and whatnot. But then she had informed us that our permits had been pulled and that we needed to look farther into the zoning and whatnot. So after a little bit of time, and with the fact that the application costed $750, there was a lot of talk between the 3 owners of our business if we should bother with it. Kind of normal discussion, and I think that probably took 2 months or so. So I mean, it might sound bad initially that we didn't apply right away and that we didn't do our due diligence, but in my defense, I wasn't really aware of any of this, and albeit that is kind of my fault, right? But Furthermore, I think for points of support is this is a discretionary use. And in my mind, I would think that it's something you could put forward that the planning and development department could decide on. I'm not sure if that's completely correct. So I mean, if there is concerns, I feel like it could just be filtered out through that pathway as opposed to having to go through an entire bylaw amendment. Or if in the future, another business wants to add an indoor recreation participant service to the industrial area. And I think Alicia named off a whole bunch of those businesses, which could be a possibility in the future, trampoline parks and whatnot. I did a brief bit of research myself on the surrounding area to look for places that could have accommodated our business. And I couldn't find a whole lot. That would be equivalent to like downtown, for instance. And the West Hill, I think, as we're all aware, is a pretty large part of Peace River. There's a pretty large population on the west side of the river. It's just kind of good business strategy, I thought, you know, to have a gym on that side of town. It's kind of creating amenities for the population on that side of town. I've gotten some pretty good feedback on that as well. And then, I mean, another point of support is the fact that it is gonna affect another business now. So it's not like I'm an alone thing here. It seems like it kind of makes sense to do.
Well, it sort of leads the way for other businesses to do the same.
Right, and once again, like I said, I think if it did turn into a bit of a problem, leaving it in that discretionary use category kind of leaves it up to the planning and development department to weed it out if it was a problem. But, that's about it.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any others who would like to step forward to speak in favor of the bylaw?
Good afternoon. This is with respect to this bylaw. And a letter that we had received, me as the property owner for the Mighty Peace Bar Club. I'm here to address the notice of unauthorized use, the building and related land use bylaw amendment. This is in response to the correspondence dated October 30th, directed to the Mighty Peace Bar Club, a registered nonprofit society regarding occupancy and property use at 9510 91st Ave. From Alicia Modi, manager of planning and development, the town of Peace River. For over 7 years, the Mighty Peace Barbell Club has been a tenant at this location, delivering invaluable community service that align fully with its mission. Since 2020, this organization has applied for and received property tax exemptions valid through 2026 in recognition of its status and contributions. The assertion from the manager of planning and development suggesting a lack of awareness regarding MPBC's tenancy and operations is blatantly inconsistent with the town's own historical actions, including approved tax exemptions, grant issuances, and prior communications. The administration and council have been fully informed of the Mighty Peace Barbell Club's location and purpose. Any amendment to the bylaw or potential defeat of the amendment should clearly negate any requirement for a development permit as per section 5. The Mighty Peace Barbell Club should not be compelled to submit any new permits for a tenancy and purpose that have remained unchanged for over 7 years. Furthermore, I demand that in Elisa's closing statement, notice stating that MPBC will be required to cease operations if the amendment is not approved, be immediately rescinded. 7 years of established tenancy make it clear to the town administration and council that they are fully aware of the club's mandate and property use. As a taxpayer and business person in Peace River, this shift in administration stance does not bode well for the collaborative relationship expected between administration, the residences, organizations, and businesses that it serves. While this move by administration may well be an oversight, delivering a demand letter with an 11-day deadline under the threat of closure is absolutely unacceptable. MPBC has served the community with dedication, and the treatment in this matter disregards the significant role played by its volunteers and members. When a nonprofit organization or any community entity receives a notice like this with the looming threat of forced closure, town should have had decency to schedule a consultation with the parties involved rather than issuing a heavy-handed ultimatum. We are here to support the well-being of our residences, businesses, and visitors. And at this time, and it's time that council made it clear to administration that the growing divide between council and administration is unacceptable and needs to be immediately addressed. I have lived here for 57 years, and I have watched countless councils and administrations come and go. Yet despite these changes, there remains an undercurrent of resistance within the administration to embrace genuine progressive change. This is a small Alberta town built on values of cooperation and mutual support. And it is evident that these values are being eroded. Communication, collaboration, and cooperation are what made this community strong. And they are needed now more than ever. It is time for administration to adopt a proactive approach that says, how can we help? Not one that delays, dismisses the needs of its community until all other options are exhausted. So in closing, I have suggested that the town of Peace River, given the fact that Barbell Club serves this community, is a registered nonprofit organization. And the fact that Mr. Mulford and the town have allowed us tax exemption, knowing that we are a society, or I'm sorry, not myself, but the Barbell Club, that they don't have to go through this process. We've been totally upfront with everybody in the town of Peace River. And to get a letter like this really gets me going. I don't care for it at all.
So the purpose of this hearing, though, is to change the bylaws. So I take it that you're in favor of changing the bylaws so that,
Changing the bylaw, yes, Elaine?
Yeah.
But the fact is that they're gonna make us go through a process now, because they can't find records of the permits back in the day. They're gonna make this club, volunteer organization, step through hoops and jumps at their discretion. Their discretion was lacking in submission of this closure letter to begin with, so therefore I have a problem with it. These guys are fully functioning. Town of Peace River is well aware of their mandate. Now to do this, so I'm asking for an exemption on these guys, whether it's passed or not passed.
so at this point in time, we first of all have to get through the hearing and get it made into a bylaw. And at that point is likely where that discussion needs to happen.
So can I count on council support for an amendment to that? The Barbell Club?
I cannot say that at this point in time, because first of all, we're not in that role right now. All we're here is to get this hearing done, the bylaw in force, so that other clubs such as the one you're talking about or others are permitted, basically according to the proper town bylaws. And I'm sorry that things went awry on that one. I don't know the details, but this is not really the time. You've read your letter into the record though, so I would think that it will get looked at. Council will ask that it gets looked at. Yes.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that. I think, say something.
Say something real quick, that's it.
Hello, I'm Chanel. I'm the president of the Mighty Peace Barbell Association, or Mighty Peace Barbell Club. As Richard stated, we have been at the location for 7 years, so 2018. When we first opened, we did come to council with our grant proposal and stuff like that. And like you said, we also have been under the tax exemption program. Since we received our nonprofit status, we were operated for a few years without it, just to make sure we had our footings and stuff like that. In that time, my Peace Barbell Club has hosted Miserable Miles, another community event that we've ran for 8 years. Obviously, we're in favor of the bylaw amendment, hopefully without costing us any extra money because, you know, it has obviously been under our understanding that the town definitely knows where we are. We haven't hidden anywhere. We have a giant sign on our building. You can see it when you drive across the bridge every day. We're advertised on Facebook. None of it was under the radar. We are in good standing with our nonprofit status and everything like that. So hopefully everything just works, because it was definitely alarming to get that letter 10 days ago that if this bylaw, which we didn't even know existed, didn't pass, that we would be forced to close, and it would really suck. So I really hope that you guys take this into consideration. And if there's anything else that we can do, I guess just let us know.
Okay, well, thank you, and I can mark you down as in favor of the bylaw.
Yeah.
Correct. And like I said, after I'm thinking the bylaw is likely to pass, the details that you're mentioning can be looked at.
Okay, sorry, it was not clear with the letter what we were even supposed to do here. They
Yeah.
just said to come today at 5, so gathered the troops.
Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
hope you do that. Thank you. Are there any others who would like to step forward who are in favor of the bylaw? Okay, I will now call on those opposed to the bylaw. Anyone would like to step forward? Okay, I will now call on any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard in this matter. Okay, then, and look at any concluding statements from anyone who has spoken. Ms. Modi, any concluding statements? Okay, I think then that means we are finished with the public hearing, so I'll now declare it closed with someone moving that it be closed. Councillor Ford, so moves. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what happens now, just for the audience, is that we are going into another section where we actually make decisions about the various bylaws that we're looking at tonight. And the two that we've discussed are part of that scenario. So I just have to remind councillors that if you were not here for parts of the hearing, then we have to make sure that you're well aware of which bylaw we're talking about so that you vote or don't vote on it. Okay, so next up, we're looking at section on public hearings and, oops, not there. Section 6, we're looking at bylaws, and the first one is bylaw number 2158, the amendment to the land use bylaw number 1891, the redistricting of Shasberry Settlement Lot 38. And Mr. Fisher will see this one.
Good evening. I almost said good morning. It's not morning at all. Good evening.
Yes.
I believe that all councillors need to
Brad and I need to excuse yourself.
Yes. Okay, so councillors Carr and councillors Boychuk are excusing themselves as they did during the first hearing of this bylaw. So councillor Carr will remain on Zoom. He just won't be talking or voting. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. If you could please carry on.
Thanks, Your Worship. I got distracted there for a second. Good evening. I'd like to just kind of rehash a little bit about bylaw 2158. So that was an amendment to rezone the subject property from its current zoning to a direct control district, with the intention of basically being allowed to approve a development permit application for natural resources extraction. The current residential zoning that the property has doesn't include that as a listed use, either discretionary or permitted. And so in order to review and potentially approve a development permit, we would need to rezone the property. Council has held two public hearings, well, one public hearing in two parts. The first part on October 12th, 2024, and the second one on September 16th, 2024. We received 5 written responses from residents in the area, and a handful of verbal responses at the public hearings. Aside from the applicant's presentation, nobody was in favor of the amendment, which could permit gravel extraction to occur next to the residential area. In addition to sort of the public feedback that we heard from some of the affected people, there was also 116 form letters from 2016 opposing further expansion or prolonging of gravel operations along Shaftesbury Trail. That was from residents in Shaftesbury Estates. And while some of the residents have moved on and moved properties, I still think a majority of those letters that were submitted are still current residents, and the wording of the letters was very explicit. We're opposed to any development that would expand or prolong gravel pit operations along Shaftesbury Trail. One of the concerns we heard in the public hearings was that by rezoning it to direct control as we had proposed, council could really approve any kind of development, not just a gravel pit operation, but you could put an industrial facility or a meat rendering facility. And typically when administration brings forward a direct development permit for direct control, we would present council with options and a proposed wording for a development permit, including conditions. It is not likely to occur, but it is a possibility. That resident concern could be resolved by crafting a more detailed direct control district that gives it permissions and conditions consistent with like other zoning areas, right? So instead of our mixed commercial use, it has a list of permitted uses, discretionary uses, requirements for parking, things like that. We could craft a direct control district amendment or bylaw for that property that would kind of mirror those kinds of conditions. It doesn't address the general negative sentiment in the area. I guess there's sort of 3 options with how we would proceed on this bylaw, or we could proceed. The first one is giving second and third reading to the bylaw as it was written and initially passed. It's a really business-friendly approach. Doesn't take into consideration any of the feedback that we heard during the public hearings. And in terms of financial implications, it would mean an ongoing revenue collected through the bylaw that we have. Option 2 is that council directs administration to bring forward a revised bylaw 2158 that outlines sort of a more robust direct control district, and add clarity about the types of development the council would be able to approve on the subject of property or any conditions. It is a bit more of a business-friendly approach. It does address some of the concerns that we heard during the public hearing, but it doesn't address the overall negative sentiment that we believe exists in the area. And option 3 would be that council declines to provide second and third reading to bylaw 2158, 3-district property from residential to direct control. That would align with the feedback from a majority of residents that would be directly impacted by that development. The disadvantages that it could potentially be viewed as not super business friendly for the gravel pit that wants to operate over there. And there is potential of lost revenue from the aggregate bylaw. I would recommend that council defeats a motion giving second reading to bylaw 2158 to redistrict settlement lot 38 from our residential to direct control.
So that would leave the area as residential as it is right now.
Correct, your worship, and we would work with the applicant to figure out how to do a development permit for closing the facility or reclaiming it. Or they would go into sort of a non-operating state and just leave it as it is.
Okay, thank you. So council has had, as Mr. Fisher said, well, one hearing that was split into two parts to basically gain extra information. And we've had quite a briefing note on the matter. But councillors, do you have further questions at this point? Councillor Ford.
Yes, thank you. So as mentioned in the previous hearings, I sat on the gravel pit advisory committee with the MD of Peace and some of the surrounding municipalities and a lot of the residents. The MD of Peace has changed their land use bylaw. So that specific properties that they were talking about at the time, they're moving forward, there's no applications allowed at all, so that cannot be developed, or those areas cannot be developed into a gravel pit anymore. So with defeating this motion as recommended, administration working with the applicant on a closing. Okay, does that meld with the MD of Peace's decision so that no other applications can be further made for those areas?
Yeah, it would be more of a stripping and grading landscaping kind of permit that we'd be issuing to kind of deal with some of the piles and kind of reshape the property is what we would be ideally trying to work with the applicant for. Otherwise, if we couldn't come to an agreement, hopefully they would just stop operations there.
Okay, so that would be more of helping that applicant with a reclamation of the area and no further extract.
Ideally, that's where we would take it, I think.
Other questions, councillors? Councillor Scammon?
Be the, I mean, I'm asking you to speculate, so just bear with me. What would be the fastest way, I guess you would say, to have that particular property be reclaimed? Because I mean, if they just stop doing things and then there it sits, and so then that land is basically just sterilized for anything else. Till when, we're not sure. If they were permitted to operate, is there like a timeline in which they would finish operations, and then like, would we be any closer to getting it reclaimed if they were allowed to operate? Or is this all just too up in the air? There's kind of not a way to predict how that might land.
I don't think I could predict how that would land, and it would depend on how the applicant works with or against us.
Okay, going forward, you can have another. Well, given that they've been operating for some time, is there we were to say defeat the bylaw, is there potential for some legal recourse that they could come back and say, hey, we've been doing this for a long time and we would, you know, somehow get you in court and challenge this kind of idea? If we were to defeat the bylaw and would they have, like, because they've been operating, is there some legal precedent where I could say, hey, look, we've been doing this, you can't stop us from doing this, or something in that regard? Is there some kind of risk there?
This is touching awfully close to something that I would have to take into a closed session.
Oh, okay.
But
Sure.
the gist of it is, I think that because we've never issued a permit, we would be in a position to issue a stop order.
Okay.
And have it enforced. And it would be pretty difficult for the applicant to check. That's my understanding.
So, this property at some point in the past was annexed from the MD of Peace, and so I think it's someplace in that trail that either rules changed or compliance has changed and stuff like that.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Counselor Ford?
It's just a further up or a follow-up question. So if the motion is defeated and you work with the applicant on reclamation, and your comment about stop order, how would that affect the applicant from hauling out of their current piles that are there? And, but they would not be allowed to extract or do any other crushing. So how would that affect operations in a week from now if they're just hauling from their piles? Is that part of the reclamation?
I think, Counselor Ford, to your question, I would still expect that they, in order, like, to do the reclamation, I believe that there will be some balance of material that will have to be removed from the site, and the balance of material will have to be brought to the site depending on what they stockpiled initially when they started. So it depends. But I would expect that before they keep hauling, that they come to administration for a permit to let it happen, because right now we don't have.
Any other questions? Counselor Shannon, any questions?
No, I've got mine all answered. Thank you.
Okay, and Counselor Good is joining the hearing. Any questions? Okay. Okay, then, anything further, Mr. Fisher, that you'd like to state?
Just the reiteration that my recommendation this evening is to defeat giving the bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe somebody could put forth a motion. Counselor Ford?
Thank you, Your Worship. I put a motion on the floor that council gives second reading to bylaw 2158 to redistrict Shaftesbury Settlement Lot 38 from residential 1A district R1-A to direct control district DIR-C.
Can I make, would you be in favor of a recorded vote, just so no one misunderstands your intention by making the motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have 5 counselors who are, 5 on council who are able to vote on this matter. Is there any further discussion? Okay, then, everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion?
Opposed?
Okay, Ms. Parsons, you've got it recorded. Okay, it is defeated, so this ends this matter. Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, thank you, council.
Okay, next up, we are on bylaw number 2162, amendment to the municipal development plan bylaw number 1874, amending policies 621. And this is a matter that we dealt with earlier, right? Is this the one? Automotive electrical services. So Councillor or Deputy Mayor Boychuk, can he wasn't here for the first part of this, so Ms. Parsons?
I would suggest for bylaw 2162 that both Councillors Good and Deputy Mayor Boychuk would not be able to participate because they were not here for the public hearing, and that is in MGA that if you miss the public hearing, you can't participate in the vote subsequently.
Okay, so that's understood. Okay, so Ms. Modi, if you would like to refresh our memories here.
Yes. Bylaw 2162 is an amendment to the land use bylaw that's related to a land use bylaw. Sorry, it's an amendment of the municipal development plan that's related to a proposed amendment to the land use bylaw. It changes the operative term of policy 621 from a shall to a may statement, which gives the town greater discretion in terms of the degree to which we will abide by that policy, and allows us on a case-by-case basis to determine the level of compliance. The options before council this evening are to provide second and third reading to bylaw 2062 to update the policy of the MVP. That the advantages include that it is consistent with the proposed land use bylaw amendment. It provides us discretion on a case-by-case basis with the application of the policy related to the downtown. It allows the town the option to consider uses that may be more readily established in a business, that may more readily be established in an industrial style shop building. The disadvantage of this is that it may delay the intended future vision of the downtown. Option 2 is the council defeat the bylaw. This maintains certain policy direction with respect to the intended future of the downtown, but is inconsistent with council's direction on bylaw 2149, the proposed land use bylaw amendment. And it is our recommendation that council provide second and third reading of the bylaw this evening.
Thank you. Councilors, any points for discussion at this point? Okay, if that's the situation. Any further comments, Ms. Modi? No. Okay, so recommendation is that council does provide second and third reading to this bylaw. If someone would care to put forth a motion on second reading.
Yeah, I'll move the council give second reading to bylaw number 2162, which amends policy 6.2.1 of the municipal development plan.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clear on the motion? Okay, then all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? It is carried by the 5 councillors that can vote. Okay, next up, we might have another motion for third reading.
I can do that.
Thank you, Councillor Shannon.
I move that council provides third reading to bylaw number 2163, which amends land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participant recreation services as a discretionary use to the light industrial M1 district and mixed industrial business M1B district.
Thank you. Quite a mouthful, some of these motions. Councillor or Ms. Parsons, was that the right one?
No, sorry. This would be to give third reading to bylaw number 2162, which amends policy 621 of the M.
I think you're one ahead,
Just one
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
so we'll save that one.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll say that one.
Okay, and you're okay with moving this one to third reading?
Yes,
Yeah?
please.
Okay, so Councillor Shannon has moved to third reading. Any further questions? All those in favor of third reading?
Aye.
Great, it is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Modi. Next up, we have bylaw number 2149, amendment to the land use bylaw number 1891, which is adding
Now that it's. We still deal with the actual.
Ms. Modi's going to help us with this one.
Yeah, sorry, bylaw 2149 is an amendment to the land use bylaw that relates to the MDP amendment that was just passed. This adds automotive electric services to 7 land use districts in the town of Peace River, including the 2 in the downtown, but also to the C2 and C3 districts, as well as the M1, M1A, and M1B districts, so commercial and industrial districts. Options before council this evening include providing third reading, because this bylaw has already received second reading, to 2149, which allows the applicant who applied for this land use bylaw amendment to apply for a development permit for their business operation. And it also integrates the automotive electric services use class into the land use bylaw more fully, not just dealing with the specifics of that one amendment or application. It allows development decisions that may delay achieving the intended future of the downtown. Option 2 would be to defeat the bylaw. That is not consistent with the direction the council's previous bylaw amendment. It does require the applicant to relocate their business operations, would be perceived as business not friendly, and may result in a vacant building or building unit within the downtown core. It is the recommendation that council provide third reading to the bylaw, which adds automotive electric services use to the land use bylaw in 7 land use districts.
Thank you, Ms. Modi. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Good.
Just one of propriety. It's okay to vote on this one?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Good. So for this one, the public hearing was held back in March on March 25th, 2024, sorry. So in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Deputy Mayor Boychuk will need to abstain from discussion and voting as he was absent from that meeting.
I may vote.
You may vote.
Okay, it's kind of complicated and the rule is if you're not, the rule just for the public is that if you're not here for the hearings, then you cannot vote on them. If you're not here, if you're only here for part of the hearing, then you decide if you're going to participate in the
I
vote or
just-
not.
Because the other one affected to it, sort of was tangential to this, I just wanted to make sure, I'll be happy to make that motion. I'll, move that council provide third reading to bylaw 2149, which adds automotive electrical service to the land use bylaw and allows the use of 7 land use districts.
Great, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, or everybody understands the motion?
Oh, good question.
Okay, I understand what we're doing. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Great, it is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Modi. Okay, and now, Ms. Modi, bylaw number 2163, amendment to land use bylaw 1891, adding indoor participant recreation services to M1 and M1B districts.
Yes, you just said it. So the bylaw does add the use to 2 land use districts. The options before council this evening are to provide second and third reading to bylaw 2163. This does allow the use in a greater area of the town, facilitates the reuse of existing buildings, allows the development authority the discretion to mitigate potential impacts between adjacent land uses. Potentially, it may create conflicts between adjacent land uses if and when we were to say yes. Option 2 would be to defeat the bylaw, which maintains the downtown and the West Hill commercial areas as the commercial service centers for the downtown, or for the town, sorry. It limits options for the reuse of existing building stock. I will also acknowledge that through this process, we had an applicant who came forward to remedy their situation. Through that process, we have been able to address a similar situation in a different district. The bylaw was crafted to deal with both districts, or with both districts in both situations. Because of this, council does have the option to direct administration to waive or refund an amendment fee. Given that this deals with 2 districts, 2 gyms and 2 different areas, it is administration's recommendation that council waive and return half of the fee to the applicant. So that second recommendation is before council this evening as well, but please do the land use bylaw amendment as a separate motion.
Okay, so first of all, administration, we have 5 councilors can vote on this one, or is it all 7 of us?
I would suggest that as councilors go to Deputy Mayor Boychuk, even 1 minute before closing, that perhaps they would abstain from this as well. For all intents and purposes, I would say that they also missed this public hearing, so would declare
We were out.
that you were absent.
You had 1 minute of it, apparently. Okay, councilors, any further discussion on this? Councilor Ford?
I just have one question. So when you're talking about the fees, because we heard the comment from
Could
the,
we maybe deal with the thing first and get it passed or not, and then we'll hear the question?
the fee questions, a second motion? Pick that, I can wait my question.
So first of all, we have to deal with the change and then decide. Okay, so any further discussion?
So given that this is a discretionary, that would mean that people that are wishing to operate or continue operating, they would be able to operate or continue operating should this pass. There's no one has to stop operating for a period of time or anything of that regard.
We will continue to work with the applicants to move things forward, but not stop them if they're on the path towards
Okay,
compliance.
and then also being discretionary, it would probably mean a municipal planning commission process and those other things. But no one has to stop doing what they're doing, and that's okay, beautiful. That's my question, thank you.
Okay, any further clarification, questions? Perhaps someone would then put forward a motion for second reading.
Yeah, I'll move that council provide second reading to bylaw number 2163, which amends land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participant recreation services as discretionary use to the light industrial district and mixed industrial business district.
Thank you. Is everybody clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, it is carried. Okay, so we passed second reading. Now there's a possibility we could pass third reading if someone would make a motion and.
Thank you, Worship. I put a motion on the floor that council provide third reading to bylaw 2163 to add indoor participant recreation services to light industrial M1 district and mixed industrial business M1B district.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Everyone's clear on the motion for third reading? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. It is not all opposed, it is carried. Thank you. Okay, now with respect to the matter of the fee refund, etc. Councilor Ford, you had a.
Yes, with the fees, like I do realize that the applicant had paid fees already to have that change. So, how would fees, so you're talking about refunding or waiving that fee. So with fees moving forward, working with these two businesses, is there any fees coming forward? With the rest of the process? And the reason why I ask is on my first term of council, this is my third term. I remember presentations from the Barbell Club. When they first moved in there, I remember the tax exemptions, like I remember all those presentations, so that's why I'm asking about the fees.
So in terms of the development processes moving forward, there are fees associated with making a development permit application and making a building permit application. This recommendation deals specifically with the land use bylaw amendment fee. I hope it's not out of turn for me to suggest that we have heard some of the feedback on fees, especially when we're dealing with historic situations. So it is our intention to bring forward a request for direction to council for how to manage some of those situations. Right now, our fee bylaw requires that we take in the fees. When we're dealing with a building permit fee specifically, there's a cost to the town. The town takes in 100% of the fee, only retains 25%, 75% is referred to our contractor Superior Safety Codes that provides safety code service to the town. So we need to make some decisions there. But we have discussed at the administrative level that we would like a little bit of discretion to deal with these historic situations where we're trying to remedy a situation. So I think the intention is to bring that request for direction back to council in the very near future so that we can have those discussions when they make sense.
Thank you.
Councilor Scamhorn?
So in other words, you would like something built into policy instead of us deciding on this case and that case and whatever else. So in the future, we will, hopefully near future, do some kind of policy that allows you to take action on this and others going forward, so we don't have to muck about with it again.
And I guess ideally, from my perspective, at the administrative level, so this isn't a decision we have to continually bring back to council as well.
Great. Objection to a motion?
I did one question.
Sure.
So would there be a pause on the situation that Mr. Armstrong brought forward?
We'll continue to work with the applicants. We are not going to require them to do anything in the next week. If we know a conversation is happening with council within the next 2 weeks to a month, then we'll work with the applicants to work around that timeline.
Were there fees involved with that discussions or not?
There won't be a fee until we know what the direction at council is and what our ability is.
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Good?
Just one question, because this is getting propriety again. because this is associated with the previous, then the same restriction would apply, am I correct? Or because it's a fee bylaw, it's a fee, pardon me, a motion concerning a fee, is it open territory?
Yes, you're free to vote on
Thank
this.
you.
Required to.
Just wanted to play safe.
Yes, you're required to vote on this, actually.
Okay, so all 7 councillors are voting on this one, if there is a motion.
Okay,
Councillor
motion, council direct administration to refund half the land use bylaw amendment fee for application ALUB 2024-04 to the applicant.
Okay, any further discussion on that motion? Are we clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Oh, oops. Okay, I think I got your votes. It is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Modi. Okay. Next up, we have no unfinished business. And just so your audience knows, it's free for you to leave at any time you so choose, but I know you're all totally interested in our discussions here, so. The next step, though, is new business, and we have Municipal Planning Commission member appointments, and Ms. Modi.
Thank you. Yes, before you is a request to renew 3 municipal planning commission member appointments. At the MPC, as you all know, is a decision-making body for our part of our development permit processes. The bylaw 1993 establishes or states that the membership of the MPC is to be comprised of 9 members, no more than 3 being on council. The remaining members must come from the public at large, and they are appointed to 3-year terms. We have 3 members whose terms have expired, and we need to have membership on the board to maintain our decision-making authority. Carol Keller, Terry Sawchuk, and Channing Stenhouse have all been willing to maintain their membership on the committee. So we have an option before council to renew their appointment for a 3-year term. This maintains their appointment, the appointment of members who are wishing to continue to participate in the town's MPC and help the MPC help the MPC establish quorum at scheduled hearings. It retains members of the board who have experience in making these decisions. And there does remain 1 vacancy on the board, which we will be working to do some advertising to fill in the near future. The other option would be to decline the renewal of the appointments, which would give other residents the chance to put their name forward. But it would mean that we are losing some experienced board members. It would impact the MPC's ability to maintain quorum or to reach quorum until we have those other members appointed. And it would require some urgent advertising to fill the vacancies. So it is a recommendation that council renew the appointments of those 3 members.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions of Ms. Modi on this? Councillor Scammell?
So that current vacancy, how long has that been open?
It's been there for some time, and we do need to do some advertising. We were updating our board application as well, which was something we were kind of waiting on, and I believe that that's completed at this point. So we're in a better position now to receive applications.
But anyone that's, strolled onto the town website, looking to get involved, they would have seen that there, potentially is an opening. I guess the point I'm trying to make is with us renewing these 3, I must say, having worked with them, very excellent members of the planning commission. It's not like there's other people banging on the door to take the chairs away from them or any of that regard, right?
Okay. Would someone care to put forth a motion on this matter? Deputy Mayor Boychuk.
I'll put a motion that council renews the appointment of Terry Sawchuk, Tyrell Keller, and Channing Stenhouse to the Municipal Planning Commission for 3-year terms, effective immediately and expiring November 12, 2026.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you, Ms. Modi. Okay, next up, Mr. Fisher is going to talk to us about the 91st Street Local Improvement Petition.
I think I'm in the hot seat for two now. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We administer.
Sorry, I just want to let council aware that I do have a conflict, a possible conflict of interest with this. Not a pecuniary interest, but I do have in-laws that live in that area.
Carry on.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we have previously sent out a letter to residents on 91st Street in Northwest Peace. At the very end, there's a cul-de-sac that is currently gravel, that's not paved. Going forward with our overlay plan that I inherited when I started here, the intent was next year we would be doing some more work in Lower West Peace to kind of finish up some of the asphalt rehabilitation that we started in 2023. While we're in the area, there's an opportunity to kind of reduce the costs of paving that cul-de-sac, sort of by saving on some of the mobilization and contract administration costs, because I already have a contractor working in the area with equipment. I don't have a consultant working on that project. So we sent a letter to the residents of the cul-de-sac, kind of advising them of that, and then giving them the option to participate in, if they wanted to pursue having that area paved, do a local improvement petition as a group of residents. And I personally felt that, given that I feel like a lot of people are struggling financially, it was really valuable to give the residents an option to opt in to something like that, as opposed to telling them, we're doing it and here's what it'll cost you, and then making them petition to opt out. Basically there are 20 affected properties. They have a combined assessment value of about $4.5 million. We own 2 properties. The assessment value on 2 properties that we own is about $43,000, give or take a bit. And so we have a fairly high say in whether or not this would happen if we want to, with very little stakes in terms of, like, we don't have as much assessment in the conversation, or when I say lower stakes, we pay a higher portion, but it affects us a little bit less than our residents because we have deeper pockets. So the estimated levy for the properties would be about $10,000 of assessment based on linear frontage. That's what it would cost us for our portion of local improvement if we went ahead. And then a capital contribution on the project of about $160,000. I've estimated the total cost of the project at around $300,000, give or take a little bit. Under the Municipal Government Act, council has the ability to choose whether or not our properties count or should be included in that local petition. So out of the 20 properties, if council elected to have our votes count, our 2 properties would count, and if council chose not to, the petition would be based on the 18 remaining properties. So they would have those 18 properties would get to say, and just kind of like riding along. And so we have the ability to opt in or out. And so that's the question that I'm asking, because we got asked by one of the residents who is working on organizing the local petition. So if we would be counting our properties as part of that, and if we would like to participate in the petition. I kind of have 2 options in front of council. One is that council moves that the town of Peace River's properties in the cul-de-sac be counted as part of the local improvement petition, and that we sign the residents petition to have the area paved. It reduces the threshold for a successful petition for the remaining residents. I think that the disadvantage is that there's a perception that we'd be ramming this through if it go ahead a little bit. And the financial implications kind of obviously depend on whether or not the petition is successful. If it's successful, we're on hook for our portion of the levy and the project contribution. Option 2 is that council declines the opportunity for the town's properties to be counted in the cul-de-sac. So we would remain a neutral party in that conversation. The decision would be entirely based on the 18 residents who or property owners in that area as to whether or not the petition would go ahead. And the financial implications are obviously still dependent on whether or not that petition is successful. I think the petition becomes harder to be successful if we opt out. My recommendation was that because our property values are so low, they're utility lots in that neighborhood, it's less than 1% of the total value of assessment, that council would defeat the motion to participate in the local improvement petition in state neutral basically.
Thank you. So when the neighborhood improvement project was set up, that part was, there was no improvements to be done in that cul-de-sac, or there were, as part of the neighborhood improvement part. It wasn't even part of that.
No, we're not doing the neighborhood, it's an overlay program is what was happening down there.
So the $160,000 that's spoken of here out of a $300,000 project, do we have the $300,000 already allocated for something there or not?
We've included an amount if council decided to, well, we've included an amount in the capital plan.
If it went ahead.
If the petition was successful.
Gotcha.
The $160,000 as town's contribution is basically in order to pave the area, and I would have to rebuild the road base. There's an argument that rebuilding the road base isn't really an improvement, even though I'd have to do it to pave it. So I filtered it out, so there's a portion that would be paid for by the town, just as a maintenance piece, and then a portion that would be paid for as improvement.
Okay, so the idea is whether or not to have the town properties included as parts of this petition for the percentage of assessment and percentage of property owners kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's whether or not town would like to participate in the petition.
Yeah. Okay, so councillors, comments? Deputy Mayor.
Do you have an idea how many residents want that area paved down there?
Oh, no one had done their petition. I've certainly gotten an ask or two since I started here about why it hasn't been paved previously. So there is some interest from residents in that area. I don't know if they'll have enough support to meet the threshold or not. So it's more than one, less than 20.
So what happens though is it would be paid out over time on their property tax, no?
It sort of depends. We would assess them a levy and we would give them the option. We could finance it over a longer period of time, and then it would just become part of their annual tax payment over 15 or 20 years. Or if they chose to, they could pay it as a lump sum before we get started or after we get started. And then that property would be burdened in the future. And it really depends on the owner what they choose.
Okay, so it's up to if the petition is organized and so on goes forth, whatever that result is. But, so councillors, somebody want to put forth a motion and then we can discuss some more if you wish, vote.
I'll put the motion forward. Council move that the town of Peace River's property tax roll 625036 to 625026 in the 91st Street cul-de-sac area be counted as part of the local improvement petition, and the town sign the residents' petition to have the area paved.
Thank you. Any further question or clarification on the motion? Okay, so you've got the recommendation before you as well. You're all clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, so I think we've got it.
His name, and I'm not.
All right,
We'll get down with it.
Council Shannon, were you in favor of the motion or opposed to it?
I'm opposed to it.
Opposed to the motion. Okay, opposed, carried it, so the motion is defeated. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Fisher, for that information as well. Moving right along here now, we're at Mr. Fisher, Reservoir 365 Energy Contract renegotiation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and council. So this one is a little bit happier news, kind of. So Reservoir 365 was, the reservoir sort of on 103rd and the south end there. It was rebuilt. There used to be a water plant. It got torn down. We rebuilt a new water reservoir pump house up there, a couple of years ago. And sort of over the last couple of years, administration's been kind of trying to find some money savings, and I know CAO Miller has been poking me about streetlights and removing some sites elsewhere that we could no longer need it on our ACO bill, or not ACO bill, but our power bill. And then this one was one that I was looking at because our power use on our water sites is pretty high, right? When I got looking at the Reservoir 365 site, it turns out that we entered into an agreement that included sort of a minimum power consumption at the site, and locked us into sort of that minimum power consumption for, I think 2045 is the end date, specifically. And it also locked us into a specific rate structure. So with ACO distribution and transmission costs, basically the different types of rates have different power costs to them on the distribution and transmission side. So the more industrial site a site is, the more expensive the power provision is. And so when I looked at the reservoir site, it's locked into a minimum power contribution and locked in at an industrial rate. We have the ability to kind of buy out that contract for $41,000. And the net effect of buying out that contract and switching the power rate, like how the site is classified from the commercial site, or sorry, from the industrial site to a commercial site, we can actually save about $1,000 a month on the power bill, which is pretty significant when you consider that contract is 25 years long or 20 years long at this point. Over the life, that amounts to a savings of about $250,000 that kind of just comes back into our infrastructure reserves because we're not spending it. So it feels weird, but I'm asking for $41,000 from our tax supported operating reserve to basically fund buying out this contract so that I can change the rate and lock it in at a lower minimum power contribution or power contribution per se.
Those are good.
I guess the math being hard at times. You're basically paying $41,000 to make $250.
Yeah, it's over a longer period of time, but the payback on my savings is like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
About 14,000 a year. So, yeah, there you go.
Make that the all day.
Okay, any further discussion on this one?
Yeah, can you do this anywhere else?
They're looking.
I'm currently looking, yeah, I think so. I think I have another site I can do it.
Okay, so would someone care to put forth a motion on this one?
Thank you, worship. I put a motion on the floor that council direct administration to buy out the town's current contract with ACO Electric for provision of power at the Reservoir 365 site at a cost of $41,437 to be funded from the tax supported operating reserve, and directs administration to negotiate a new power supply agreement with ACO Electric for the site.
Thank you. Any further questions, clarity? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
It is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Fisher. Okay, moving right along here. Next up, Peace River Rotaract Club Sub-Zero Skateway Project request. Mrs. Bella's gonna move us through this one.
I have to position myself so I can see you past the owl. Thank you, your worship and council. The report this evening, I'm pleased to bring forward in a timely manner and as requested by the Rotaract Club at the last council meeting, the governance priorities meeting. Administration was first brought into being made aware of this project from a request from the Rotaract in mid to later September, requesting just a touch base. Is this an idea the town would entertain conversation? A couple members of administration met with a member of Rotaract and definitely provided our support to the concept and the idea, very supportive of this new an exciting addition to our winter activities in the community. We've had some email requests from the club. Administration specifically reached out to the club and set up a meeting with them in October and preemptively prior to meeting with council to get a better sense of what the request was going to be, what they're looking at for a little more of the details and information about the project. Because prior to that, we had a general concept, but not a lot of the detail of what this project might entail and what the requests potentially could be of the town. In preparation, what administration did is took a look once we had found out this is more of a skateway idea, took a look at our existing facilities, outdoor park spaces, and we did an evaluation of each location. What had power, what had washrooms, where's the irrigation systems, a bit of an analysis site by site to sort of assess what options there could be to bring forward to that October meeting with the club, to have that conversation of pros and cons for each site. We did consider 12-foot Davis, but sort of quickly dismissed it as there is a bit of a load issue on the bridge. But really didn't explore if there were any other options there, though could be a beautiful site someday for this type of idea or others. We did, as noted in the different 3 different locations, the Arboretum, Kinsman Funland on the picnic side. Just want to make sure that's clear, and Riverfront Park, and then as noted, 12-foot Events Park. At the Arboretum location, there is a complex irrigation system that's watering over 99 trees and shrubs, 2 of which don't need to be watered any longer as they need to be removed. We did raise significant concerns about this location because of the extensive foliage vegetation on site. There isn't an existing pathway or walking path system at that location. And a lot of skateways, that's how they're built. High levels specifically designed to sort of slightly below ground to capture water that they build up the iceway on that existing pathway. Rundle Park, Victoria Park in Edmonton, those are the 2 major skateways in the city of Edmonton, and they use existing at Rundle Park, for example, an existing pathway. So we're using some of this as a basis for our evaluation and noted some of the potential challenges at each of the different locations for various reasons. We did discuss Kinsman Funland, though it could be a pretty neat addition to that location, because right now it needs some re-energizing at that site. We all agreed it definitely would require a much longer term plan because it's slightly hilly, which though could be very exciting for somebody if they wanted to really rip around. But we decided that that's probably not the best site at this time. We discussed this with the club, reviewed these sites as noted, and as we saw, we also brought a template of a memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement of what at any location we would require or request an organization to participate in a formal outlining of roles and responsibilities, expectations, who was doing what, who was installing, who was maintaining. So it's clear for all parties, which is really important in any sort of partnership arrangement. We did see in the administrative's overall proposal to council, they did an absolute fantastic job of providing additional information that wasn't readily available at that meeting, and provided us with a lot of answers to some of our concerns and questions, and some proposals to mitigate some of the concerns that we had at the Arboretum site. We'd also like to note that each location, excuse me, in our evaluation, we also assess whenever we bring something new to the community, we are considering its economic impact. So when we're hosting events, as we see with any sort of provincials events or large activities like the Rotaract River Days, there's always an economic benefit. And this definitely could have a spin-off as any new activity can have. And potentially the location of that skateway can have maybe a larger benefit, potentially, not to say that it's a direct one-on-one correlation, but there is potentially a higher benefit to our downtown businesses if potentially we're closer in proximity. So that was also considered in our evaluation. The options before council this evening is option one is offering the Arboretum site under a lease arrangement. This is a interesting option that I initially had not thought about and have not discussed with the club. So it has an implication in terms of timing, and it's something they may need to explore a little bit further. It's not something that initially came up in our thought process and administratively looking at it, but it is a very viable option if the club would like to, as they presented in their communications with council at the governance meeting. There's a lots of opportunity. There's members of the business community, forestry, who are very interested in sort of re-sparking that site for other purposes and not just the skateway. So if they are looking at to expand and enhance the site as it once was when it was first developed, because it has been quieter, not as active, then this might be a really great opportunity for the organization to take a look at the leasing option. There is really no cost to leasing with the town under the nonprofit policy. It is $1 a year. So it's not a money-making process at all. It gives an organization an opportunity to take a site and sort of run with it, as it were. As mentioned, though, there are some disadvantages this would require, as per the lease policy, we don't extend insurance, town's insurance. It's very clear in the lease policy that we don't extend insurance under that lease situation. And it may take the Rotaract Club some opportunity, some time to explore what the lease document could mean for them as an organization. Excuse me. Option two offers Riverfront Park as a pilot for 2024-2025 winter season. There's a lot of advantages to this location. If you look at the chart that was provided when we did our sort of administrative analysis, not knowing specifically the location prior to that October meeting that the club was looking at. Excuse me, Riverfront Park has a number of existing amenities, existing infrastructure that the organization could build on in terms of easily offering programming and events at the location. There's washrooms. The irrigation is much broader and is nowhere near as intricate and detailed as the Arboretum site. So we might cross it once or twice with any sort of skateway design plan. So it's negligible in terms of on-site operations or development. Yeah, just a lot of existing infrastructure close to downtown, parking lots, that type of thing. This could be their pilot site and we could look at other options in the future, but it is a readily available, very quick to develop, location. Doesn't have the same, visual appeal that I believe the trees for the arboretum, that vision. I can see that there's a lot less trees at the Riverfront Park, which again has pros and cons too. Option 3 is council's choice to determine other alternate options you'd like to present, for your approval, or decline, which we don't see as a option or a great option at all.
Okay, well, more information, eh? So the option 1 here, the offer to lease the arboretum site, when the town makes leases for other things, there usually is a responsibility for whoever's leasing it to do some of the, I don't know, maintenance, ongoing, just ongoing maintenance is what I'm gonna call it. If it was a building, it would be, okay, you're responsible for the roof or whatever, that sort of thing. So how would what things or nuances would go into a lease this kind of site?
So at this location, there'd be a couple of things, or maybe because there is opportunity for discussion around terms and conditions of any lease. Anytime that we change a basic term or condition, we require or request council's amendment or approval for those amendments. So we have so many different locations where there's a variation of responsibility. Some sites are fully responsible for anything and everything. Other locations, we provide financial support. We provide, excuse me, in-kind support. There's different mechanisms at each site.
Okay, councilors, questions, Councilor Ford?
Got a list of questions here.
Excellent.
Okay, so in, like I read the proposal and, so one of my questions is on the 2 sites,
Oh, that's myself, sorry.
on the 2 sites, so we're looking at the Arboretum, which Rotaract has proposed for, and the other option that administration is suggesting is Riverfront Park. So Riverfront Park, no lease required, town-owned property. Arboretum, town-owned property, but we're asking for a lease. With the lease has to come your own insurance.
Correct.
Why would, if council chose to, why would we not allow the Arboretum site on a partnership so that they can proceed with the project and not have to worry about insurance? The same would apply to both locations.
Yeah. In their proposal, there was a request or a preference and I'm at a loss to find an appropriate word, for maintenance of the site, addition of and changing of updating of signage. It seemed the proposal provided, I know, sorry, these are.
That was mine.
Yeah. Beyond just the skateway. Once we move beyond sort of a one-off request, why not then look at a bigger project and that opportunity to allow an organization to take this underutilized location and make it a little more utilizable. That's not a word.
Okay, so you're referring to like possibly after the 1-year project, what would happen with it? Is that what I'm understanding? So,
Yeah.
because my understanding from listening to the presentation last week is this project has 0 cost to the town and they look after the flooding, la-di-da-di-da of the project that at the proposed site, which was Rotaract, was my understanding. My second question comes to the comment of the extensive irrigation system. So irrigation, I do understand is at both sites.
Correct.
So both sites during the winter time, of course, all the pipes are blown out. So it's the heads on each site that we're worried about as where the path goes. Would I be correct in saying that? So whether it's Riverfront Park or the Arboretum, depending on where the paths go, those heads can be flagged so that the path can be put around them. There should be no issues, but if a head was damaged at either location, I'm sure in the memorandum of understanding that Rotaract would be responsible for those damages.
Yep.
Would it be correct in saying that?
And the reason why we've highlighted the irrigation is at the Arboretum, it is, and I should have even brought a visual, it is extremely extensive. There's seems to be almost a head for each tree and shrub at the location. So it's much more extensive than at Riverfront Park, where the majority of the irrigation follows the outer berm. So it's almost a one line along that berm that just has heads that shoot into the main open area. So it's much less extensive, but absolutely, it's something that we would just like to flag and identify, and we've identified it and discussed with the group that it's just something we need to be aware of, and how can we mitigate any potential impact at either in any location. That's all.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because
Yeah.
like setting up tents for Peace Fest in Riverfront Park, they would always have to come and identify where the lines were
Yeah.
as well as the heads because you're pounding stakes.
And we've provided those maps, so that was part of the conversation already.
Okay, yeah, because as far as having a skate path, have like my understanding of them and seeing them in other communities, those skate paths are like they had mentioned, maybe 3 meters wide, but they wind all over the place and they're not following the straight line. So
Yep.
having a turn in front of a head or going around a tree is,
I hope it goes around a tree, yes.
yeah, I wouldn't want to skate into one, but,
Yeah.
but,
Of course.
no,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Good?
Yeah, this one, one of the questions I have, I'll start with that. One of the questions I have is if we were going to enter into a lease agreement, you say you have a template, so they could take a look, the group could take a look at it and say, yeah, pretty quick if they wished. They may have concerns, at which point they would say no, but they could say yes fairly quickly. So that could be done reasonably expediently. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, the lease policy is posted on Civic Web, so if you open up near the council agendas, there's a box for policies, so they could see that, and we'd provide it to them right away.
Okay,
Absolutely.
My responsibility as a counselor is to look after the town of Peace River. Exposure, all that kind of stuff. The other part of the town of Peace River is to try and make the town better. Whatever term better means, we're open, the council has the ability to do that. And I kind of like dreamers. And I'm going to be very blunt about that. When people have a dream and a vision, and the one thing that I'm seeing here that I don't see in a lot of people's dreams is commitment. And I've seen Rotaract demonstrate commitment to be out there in the daytime, out there in the nighttime, get the work done. I haven't seen them take on a project where they didn't deliver. My heart, my gut, and my hope would be to assist them on that. Yeah, could you do it? Could you do it at Riverfront Park? Yeah, absolutely, you could have it. Is that their vision? The answer to me is very, very clear that no, it's not.
Yeah.
I would take a walk on the wild side and say, back the vision. To me, there's a risk it's a reasonable risk based on the track record of the people, the players involved. I don't know if I'm explaining that clear enough, but there's something about this that I'd like to see the dream come true.
Counselor Shannon?
I agree with Dawn. I think, you know, I know the place might not be ideal, but, you know, if there's not a pathway, could we not, you know, look at putting one? It'll mean more work, but I don't think, it should be, you know, forgotten about just over that. You know, so we're not saying it's the
Fading a little
backside.
bit, Counselor Shannon, you're fading.
Oh, okay.
There you go. That's good.
I think that we know it can be done. They've mitigated most of these problems when they put their due diligence in. They did their work to back their vision, like Dawn says, their dream. I think they've identified the solution to address the risks highlighted by administration. Like, I can't see a compelling reason why this project shouldn't proceed just on a pilot basis for 1 year with the town and the Rotaract going in a partnership and helping each other out and deciding if it is the right place or not. But until we try, how can we tell a group who is so willing and so eager to better our town that it's impossible before we even try? I really want to see us get behind them fast and let them see what they can do there. If it doesn't work, then we can go backwards. But for now, I'd really like Dawn says, let's go forward. I can put a motion on the floor that we partner with them to implement this pilot project for the proposed sub-zero skateway.
Okay, I think we've got some more discussion too. Counselor Scamahorn, Deputy Mayor Boychuk.
Yeah, just at the GMP a week or so ago, someone said, and it wasn't a member of Rotaract, they said the proposal was summarily dismissed. I think someone was just like a little bit excited and there was a lot of zeal there because it doesn't look like that's what kind of happened here. So I just want to kind of highlight that it seems there's been a lot of conversation back and forth. So we can set that aside. My concern is that other people with other ideas would hear someone say something like that in a meeting and think, well, then there's no bother in me trying my idea either. So I think we can clear that up. One thing I would also consider is, yeah, I would not doubt the capabilities of the group, given their track record either. However, as Director Bell had mentioned, there's, you know, a few other things that kind of have come up that keep sort of, as this vision sort of gets closer to coming to pass, it seems there's a few more conditions that keep coming up, like the extensive irrigation at the Arboretum. I didn't hear about that previously either, so that's sort of something to scratch my head about. Perhaps is there an option, and I mean, when things come to us, we're the ones that make the decision. Is there a way that we can craft the motion that puts the decision in the hands of Rotaract? So if I were to say make a motion, I'm saying I'm making this motion, if I were to say make a motion that we permit options 1 and 2, and then give Rotaract the choice, you know, of saying, they may say, look, maybe we're, and I don't think this is the case, maybe we're a little out over our skis, let's pilot it at this area first and develop this area in the meantime, and then we can move in that direction. Or maybe they're like, no, we know what we have in the bullpen for donations, for volunteers, for clout and resources behind us. We could pull off this Arboretum thing, no problem. There's a group that wants to form the Friends of Arboretum again, and we know this and they're committed. I can't pretend to know their level of resources and commit behind them to make the decision for them. But is there a way that we can craft this motion so that we give them the choice of either location and then they respond to you as to their choice, and then we can ratify that?
Yeah. Ultimate, I think that's council's choice. Yeah, sorry.
I believe that would be council's choice, yes.
Yeah, okay, so we're talking about this point, so Councillor Wojciak, you had something different, or Deputy Mayor, you had something different to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so carrying on with Councillor Scammerhorn's point. If I see Councillor Carr, your hands up.
I was waiting for Councillor Wojciak, sorry. I just wanted to comment on or reiterate what was already said about the track record of Rotaract, and I feel maybe I wouldn't call it lack of support, but certainly not as much support as we should be giving to these volunteers and clubs that come up with these incredible out of the box ideas that sure they may not be perfect, but I mean, how many projects are perfect? And just for them to volunteer their time over and over to better the town with no other motives whatsoever than to better the town. I just think we need to listen to what they're saying in answer to what Mr. Scamhorn said, where we should give them the choice. I think they've made the choice. They've said that they want to go at Norm Boucher Arboretum, and I understand the irrigation system and everything else, and I think that's as easy as flagging the heads and avoiding those when you're doing your tracks. I mean, that's a pretty simple fix to that one, I would think. But I just really hope that we can get behind these people and get it moving forward, because time is obviously of the essence.
Thank you, Councillor Ford.
Yes, just to comment on Councillor Scammerhorn's point, even though it is a very, very valid idea, I agree with what the other councillors have said, that Rotaract's already presented, and they're very much in favor of the North End Arboretum. The track record from Rotaract, as everybody says, it speaks for itself. We do have a skating area at Riverfront Park already. They have a little pond there. We have nothing down in the North End unless you want to go play in Baytex or go on the outdoor surface outside of Baytex where they're always playing hockey. This is a nice little family location to skate. The only thing that I would like to comment on is Rotaract's already presented on the site, even though I don't disagree with Councillor Scammerhorn's remarks, but if we go and make a motion to that effect to let Rotaract decide what they want, I think they've already decided, but making a motion tonight and moving forward does not delay the project. And we're already getting into that season where we need to start making outdoor ice.
Not yet. It's, it's gonna be +2 in the next few days, so just, nobody's making
Point
it.
to what's being discussed.
Okay.
Well, he hasn't made a motion.
The only thing to say to Council Scammerhorn's motion is that it doesn't delay anything. Because time is 7:20. Once the motion is passed, Rotaract can have an answer here by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And they could say, yeah, we're committed, or they could say, no, we listened to what you said. Second thought, we think this. I have faith in them to make the right decision. I also have an understanding that they want to make this decision really, really, really quickly. I have faith. I like Mr. Scamhorn's motion because it also allows them to take that last second between now and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and say, are we overlooking something? Yes, no, nope, we're going with whatever. And I have total faith in it. So I think what Councilor Scamhorn's motion does is allow them to do what they wish totally. And give them options that they didn't necessarily have before. So that's all. I don't think it's a limit at all.
Just to comment, his proposed motion, he hasn't.
Proposed.
There's
There's not been a formal motion, no. And no, it was, no, my intent was certainly not to provide any doubt from my part or introduce any doubt from my part. It was just, I think when we can give people choice, I believe choice is a good thing.
Councillor Shannon, on this point or something different?
No, on this point,
Okay.
I agree with Oren and Councillor Carr, that they've already made their decision. We are just, you know, avoiding the inevitable. They've made their decision. I don't see what else, you know, they can do to make, you know, there's not going to be anything that they can mitigate other than what we brought up. So like, I too have a formal motion that I'm ready to put on the floor with a different than Councillor Scamahorn's.
If you wouldn't mind waiting a sec, Deputy Mayor Boychuk wanted to make a point as well.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing we haven't really discussed and why I love this area is the amount of visitors we will have this winter right across the street from out of town. We will have, if not thousands of people from out of town seeing that. They won't necessarily drive by any of these other areas in our town. And so I'd like to get to the point about Councillor Carr or Ford that he made. Is there any risk to the town whatsoever to offer a lease with insurance under the town for the Arbitrarium versus Riverfront Park?
So what, it would be a different situation, not a lease. It would just be a memorandum of understanding or letter of understanding.
And we wouldn't be any more at risk throwing them under our insurance there than we would at Riverfront Park, right?
No, because Riverfront Park already has an outdoor rink, so the risk is already there.
But what I'm saying is if
Yes.
to offer them, okay.
Sorry, it wasn't a very clear answer, but yes.
So now I'm unsure what was just said.
I was just clarifying if it would be okay to give them the area to use at the Arbitrarium with insurance at no risk to the town, just like we would give them insurance at the Riverfront Park.
Now, there's insurance already.
So that would eliminate the need for them to have to worry about getting insurance.
So I don't know if town needs to investigate that a little bit. I don't know.
Well, it is in the sense that a lease, we cannot extend our insurance under the current lease policy. But an MOU or a letter of understanding, if council wants to include insurance coverage.
Okay. Councillor Ford?
So if council, now I got another question, but so if council chooses to go with Rotorac's proposal and do the project at the Arboretum without a lease.
Yeah.
They need the memorandum of understanding to have the town insurance, or is the insurance already there? Because we carry insurance.
If the memorandum of understanding outlines everything, who's responsible for what components? So who's responsible for installation, who's responsible for maintenance, who's covering water, who's other things that I can't think of off the top of my head, and who would cover insurance?
Mr. Fisher, you have a point?
Yeah, so who's responsible for? I hope this mic is not wonky. Yeah, it's been fixed. That's awesome. So it would also outline like who's responsible for, oh, there we go.
You jinxed it. Yeah.
Responsible for cleaning the ice or maintaining the ice surface, who's responsible for making sure that the area is like, there's an area for changing from your street shoes to your skates, and making sure that that's kept clean and accessible, who's responsible for providing toilets, washrooms, parking, access for parking, walking for parking. It outlines a lot more detail than just, hey, we want to put this path here and make it look sexy. It outlines a lot more detail. So there's still a bit of back and forth that needs to happen.
And my understanding was there was gonna be lights put on the trees, so that would be talked about when they get taken down and all that stuff.
Absolutely, correct.
Okay, so that's a memorandum of
Understanding,
agreement,
yeah.
sort of?
Yes.
Councillor Good.
Does the memorandum of agreement delay their ability to proceed?
Ideally, it's something we would put together as quickly as possible, within a week or two at the most, and capture as many details as we possibly can all think of.
And so the option, the lease option, which is you sign the lease for $1, where they have to get their own insurance. At that point, there's really not a lot of other negotiation to a degree necessary.
Correct.
They could proceed, say, yes, we agree, we
Yeah.
can get our own insurance. And the comment that was made in the report is that insurance is not difficult to get. Am I correct?
Correct.
Is that word not difficult also translate to not overtly expensive?
That I don't specifically know, because I didn't go out and get any quotes outside of what the town, our insurance coverage and costs are, so which is not a great, litmus test or measurement
Right.
of what it would be for a nonprofit. But insurance is not as scary as people assume insurance is. Insurance can be very cost effective.
Okay, but that, because I'm trying to figure out which process, and I think there's a number of us are trying to figure
Yeah.
out which process gives the
More
gives road
expedient
act
path.
the most expedient path and the most ability to bring the theory to their fruition.
Yeah. And that's why the lease option is presented, because it's actually a very viable option. The unfortunate situation here is timing, and time being of the essence, and we understand that. And the lease option really is a very viable option that supports the vision. And I want to make sure that's very clear. Administration is extremely supportive of the concept, the facility. It was difficult weighing all the pros and cons because each site and location brings forward a lot of different opportunities. Where one site presents one great opportunity, another site presents a different great opportunity. So hence why this isn't a very simple, quick and easy path forward, but we are presenting some very viable options that can move forward fairly quickly.
Counselor Carr?
Sorry. Yes, I don't like the idea of the lease. And the reason I don't like the idea of the lease is because this is a pilot project. This is not a long-term thing necessarily. This is a pilot project. It is an unnecessary cost to a volunteer organization that is unnecessary. I think it should be a partnership and move forward quickly as a partnership. And I agree that there has to be a letter of understanding. Absolutely, there has to be. Everything needs to be in writing these days. But I mean, Rotaract has got a fantastic track record over the last few years. And I think that needs to have a lot of heavy consideration in this decision without adding costs and time delays. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any different points they want to talk about? Different points, Mr. Ford?
The only question I have is the letter or memorandum of understanding. Doesn't matter what site, you still need it.
Absolutely, yes.
And that,
Unless it's a lease.
yes, a memorandum of understanding, they're covered under town insurance.
Yeah, so if whatever location, we will put together some sort of an agreement that outlines all those details.
Correct. Okay, I think we're now ready for someone to formulate a motion. Councilor Shannon?
I have a rough one written here. I move that the town of Peace River enter a partnership with Rotaract to implement a pilot project for the proposed sub-zero skateway at the Norm Boucher Arboretum. I propose that the project commence immediately and operate under the town's insurance coverage without a lease agreement, as it would be a partnership. The project would run as presented until spring 2025.
Councilor Ford?
Yes, being that this is a very, what you want to call, citizen political discussion, I'm asking for a recorded vote. No, before the vote is called.
Yeah.
Okay, just a minute here.
No. Before the vote.
Before the vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Any further discussion on the motion, which I'm going to get read to us?
There's no way.
Read that again.
So, Councillor Shannon, can you repeat the motion, please?
I can, and I also sent it in chats. I will.
We don't see chat.
Okay, I'll repeat the motion. I move that the town of Peace River enter a partnership with Rotaract to implement a pilot project for the proposed Sub-Zero Skateway at the Norm Boucher Arboretum. I propose that the project commence immediately and operate under the town's insurance coverage without a lease agreement, as it would be a partnership. The project would run as presented until spring 2025.
Move on to that motion that is not clear. Ms. Parsons?
There's no lease, I'm assuming the MOU would still be in place in this, that's a little bit unclear.
If there's a partnership, there needs to be some sort of formal agreement somehow.
Could you switch out lease and MO? Just so that it's clear.
Sorry?
Not that administration is requesting an amendment to your motion, but just for clarity, stating a memorandum of understanding, I think is really important.
If I could propose an amendment that it include a mutually, or whatever, a mutual memorandum.
Great.
Did we just make?
Okay, so.
It gives you your MO.
Okay, so Councillor Shannon, memorandum of understanding is now part of that motion, if that's your
Yes, she did.
Excellent.
understanding as well,
agree.
okay? Okay, is everybody clear on the motion we're going to vote on? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
By the way, you asked for,
Recorded vote.
that's my mistake, so Mr. Ford asked for recorded vote. So all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Okay, it is carried. Thank you, and thank Rotaract, and good luck on your work plan.
Yay.
Okay. My proposal is that we're going to go through things until number 7. We'll have a break just before number 7 here, if that works for everybody. So next up, we have the Alberta Muni's request for an advocacy letter regarding provincial decisions' impact on taxes. And Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Risha. So the request for direction before council is regarding Alberta Muni's have initiated a lobbying effort to restore full payment of provincial property taxes. In 2019 or prior to 2019, Government of Alberta paid property taxes on their properties within municipalities in the form of grants in lieu of taxes. In 2019, they cut from 100% of paying taxes to 75%. And then in 2020 and subsequently, they've paid only 50% of the taxes, and the other 50% gets written off as part of our municipal expenses. So Alberta Munis is asking municipalities to write a letter to the province to express the financial impact of this decision on municipalities. For Town of Peace River, over the last 5 years, we have lost $566,092 based on, as a result of this decision. I did want to mention that the Government of Canada, they also pay grants in lieu of property taxes. They continue to pay 100% of it. And Corporate Services also wanted me to mention that not only is the province cut the payment in half, but they are extremely tardy in paying, and they will not pay any interest penalties on late payment of their property taxes either.
Well, 566,000 over 5 years is a lot of money. It equated at one time to the hot tub. Yeah, like really. So I think in the letter, if we could, if it goes forward, to put some ideas like that in, what did we kind of lose or stall perhaps? And you can't prove it either which way sometimes, but things like that, that might have made decisions easier at certain points. So, council, what do you think? With to do this, and somebody like to propose a motion, Councillor Good?
I'll move the council direct administration to draft a letter to the Premier of Alberta regarding the impacts of provincial decisions on municipal property taxes in Peace River.
Do you think we should put, is it, if we're only talking about the grants in lieu, or whatever the terminology is, should we put that in the motion? Or are we talking about other taxes as well?
Oh, no, we should probably specify the grants in lieu.
Yeah. Would you mind, Councillor Good?
Just one moment,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, have a difference.
Ms. Parsons? Yeah.
Just in the email from AB Munis, while they are focusing on the grants in place of taxes, they also give other examples like the election voting counting, like not allowing tabulators. So I think if administration had a few other items that we thought of that have impacted the tax rates and the amount of money, that we could add it to the letter, like even the elections registrar that we have to build and come up with now, the extra forms we'll have to have, like those all have impacts on costs.
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm quite okay.
The tardiness of disaster recovery funds as well could also be
I
included.
think we're clouding it too.
Okay.
No, I think.
Sorry.
We don't know what it
How long of a list do you want?
Okay, so Councillor Good has a motion that council is directing administration to draft a letter to the Premier of Alberta regarding the impacts of provincial decisions on municipal property taxes in Peace River. Are we all clear in the motion? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next up, council remuneration, travel and expense policy, Mr. Mugford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For you is the revisions to the council remuneration travel and expense policy. Council remuneration committee, which assembles a group of members, public at large, presented before council on October 7th with their recommendations. Those changes were fully implemented, brought before council. Council debated the changes, included several of them, and we've made the administration's made the recommended changes from council and brought them back to you this evening for your consideration. Option one before council is to approve the council remuneration travel expense policy as presented with revisions to be taking effect following the 2025 municipal election. And option two would be to decline to do so and propose further revisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion at this point? Somebody like to put forth the motion perhaps?
Yeah, I'll move council adopt the revised council remuneration, travel and expense policy as presented with revisions taking effect October 21st, 2025.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Oh. What is going on here?
Sorry, Councillor Shannon.
I said aye too late there. I meant in favor, not opposed, sorry.
No, it's good. Okay, so it is carried. Thank you. And please thank the committee and thank administration as well, Mr. Mugford, for working our way through this.
Thank you.
So now I would propose that we have a short 5-minute break and we'll come back and start talking about budget. Yeah. Okay, we're back here on section 7, and it's the 2025 capital budget discussion. And Mr. Mugford is leading us through this one.
Everyone left, they didn't stay for that.
Thank you, Dave, and good stuff. So tonight I'll be presenting the 2025 draft capital budget. This is council's first look at the town's proposed budget for 2025. Presentation contents, so I'll go over the process that administration's used to develop the budget thus far, discuss the various funding sources that we used to pay for the proposed budget, review the listing of the 2025 capital plan, and proposed funding by department. I'll also call up the other directors when we get to their respective departments, so that any questions that you have in the projects, you can speak to them directly. There'll be an opportunity for questions after each slide, and I'll present some conclusions and high-level comment at the end. So our process is the directors and managers prepared lists of capital projects. We also have a 5-year capital plan that we use kind of as our starting point. So we reviewed that listing, and the directors and CM Miller met and reviewed all those items. We also did a review of reserves, capital funding balances from third parties, and made determinations as to how to best fund those projects. So the various funding sources available for the town to fund capital projects, we can use our reserves, we can use debt, we can utilize local improvement levies, and there's also grants. So grants can be either through local government fiscal framework, which is formerly MSI. There's also other provincial grants. There's a federal level of Canada Community Building Fund, which is formerly gas tax, and there's also other federal grants that we can utilize. Included in the budget is carry forward amounts. We've identified amounts from 2024 and before that were unspent but previously approved for capital projects. So you'll see that in a column labeled as carry forward. So getting into corporate services, there's a few projects here identifies corporate service. The first one being IT evergreening. So we were informed that beginning next year, subject to check, I believe it's Windows 11 or Windows 12. One of the two is no longer being supported, so we're having to upgrade several of our devices. There's a couple dozen, so we've got a budget there. There's no major servers that we have identified for 2025, so it's mostly just laptop, desktop, and other type devices that will be updating. Which again, it's corporate services expense, but it really is to the benefit of the whole organization. We've also identified one of the vehicles, Unit 11, which is it's a passenger SUV. It's the one that's based here at the town hall, so we've identified that. And sorry, on the first one, on the IT evergreening, we've proposed that just be funded through tax supported reserves. For the passenger SUV, we proposed that be funded through LGFF. Third item on the list is a new town hall. So the renovations to the new town hall building that we purchased. We have a $250,000, council's already approved $250,000 this year to begin work on that building. We're proposing an additional $1 million to be funded through long-term debt. And the final item for corporate services so far is a $15,000 amount for a new photocopier. Any questions or comments from council on the list? Is there anything on here that you don't want to see, anything that you do want to see?
Just a question, is anybody looking at the big TV? Because I can't see the other councillors. We have the shared screen kind of thing. Okay, so Councillor Carr, you have a question?
Yes, I had a quick question. $1 million for the renovations of the new office. Have we seen our drawings from the architect yet? Because that was the excuse we couldn't, or explanation, excuse my terminology, for why we couldn't come up with a budget number before we bought the building.
So at this time, we do not have a firm estimate from an architect. We haven't completed that work at this point in time. That's why we want to have a number in the budget for 2025, but I don't have more precise information for you at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this slide?
Moving forward to protective services. So within protective services, we've got 3 items identified. The first is small capital for fire services. So we've, and you'll see this in a few different spots in the budget. Small capital is really just a collection of smaller items. You know, we do have internally the list of what that comprises. So as an example, within fire services, we have fire suppression equipment. There's a proposed budget for some upgrade to the lighting at the training yard, rescue saws, fans, headsets, etc. But rather than identifying each of those as small individual projects, we just have a one amount for small capital, which allows the fire chief a little bit of flexibility in terms of which of those items he wants to prioritize during the year. The other item for fire is the light rescue truck, which the small capital is funding out of reserves. The light rescue truck, we're proposing to fund that out of LGFF. So the light rescue truck is, it's really to allow the fire department to have the rescue equipment in a more size appropriate vehicle. Currently it's mounted in the, I believe it's 32-year-old engine, the yellow engine. So by having it in that vehicle, it's causing additional wear and tear on that very old engine, and we're reaching a point that you know, it's going to need to be replaced as well in the coming years, which you will see as part of the 5-year plan. But the light rescue truck, when we did a review of our fleet earlier this year, we think that we'll be able to eliminate the use of two vehicles in the fire department by procuring that light rescue truck, and also, as I say, take a significant strain off of that engine. So the amount 275, when we did some preliminary looks at what the pricing will be on that vehicle. You know, it's either going to be, the range is kind of $250,000 to $300,000, depending upon the specifics of the kit that you need for that vehicle. Again, most of the equipment we already have, so it's really just procuring that. But we do have the flexibility that if we were to find a decent, gently used vehicle that costs less, we'd certainly be receptive to pursuing that as well. And lastly, we have a budget in here of $100,000 to continue to grow our kit of emergency response equipment. Any questions on any of these items?
So the emergency response items, the 100,000, what kind of things would go in there?
Sierra Mother, do you want to speak to this?
I haven't planned on spending it yet, but it'd be mostly flood mitigation stuff. So this year we bought a sandbagging machine, we bought some electronic road signage. So I just need to see what we need to start building up our emergency response stock.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that this year, we had that $100,000 in the budget. I did purchase a sandbagging machine that significantly improves our ability with our public works team to make sandbags a lot faster than we've been able to in the past if we had to respond to a flood emergency. I've gotten pricing for mobile electronic signs, you know, the big signboards with the dot messaging on it. So I'm planning to purchase 2 of those for our fleet, so we've got some mobile signboards to set up around the community. So if we're hosting, we can put out some signs that are like, hey, if you're coming in as an evacuee, you should check in our Baytex Center, right? So that they're a little more prominent. So those kinds of things.
And I do want to take stock with how much Tiger Dam and whatnot we have for flood mitigation. So I don't know what we have, and we will likely need, we can always use more, I'm sure.
And we're still part of province's thing, right? Warn them to get their truck here. So the vehicles, you said that for the light rescue truck, you might be able to get rid of 2 other vehicles. Does that mean they go to auction or what would happen?
Yeah, I'll jump in for that one. So, earlier this year, Director Mumford, myself, and Director Bell and our operations teams kind of got together and went through our vehicle needs assessment. So we don't have it ready yet, but I think we're thinking of sending 8 or 9 vehicles that are kind of redundant, older, or in the plan here to be replaced, to auction.
Thank you. Councilors, questions on this slide? Like we're good, Mr. Mumford.
Okay. Well, would you like to join me up here?
I'm here.
Okay, so moving on to community services. So there is a whole list of projects here, primarily being funded out of reserves, although a few of them we've allocated, proposing to allocate LGFF to. So beginning with trail maintenance. So again, there's $150,000 carry forward from previous year. We're proposing another $150,000 as part of the 2025 budget. The hot tub replacement. So again, that project was, it was delayed in 2024. So we're proposing an increase to that budget of $150,000. Comments on that, Director? No comments, okay. Small capital pool, again, as I mentioned, there's kind of a collection of various pieces of equipment that we've identified in the pool that need to be replaced. We've allocated an amount for that. Slide replacement, so again, the budget, total budget 2025 and carry forward, that is not the total cost of the project. We know with this, like with the slide as an example, when you see the 5-year capital plan, the bulk of the cost of that project will be in 2026. So the 2025 is really just preliminary work on it. The mezzanine and the ceiling trusses, I don't believe those were in previously in the capital plan, so maybe if you want to speak to those.
Sure. So the mezzanine and ceiling trusses and baffles were identified in the pool condition assessment. The mezzanine needs to be structurally fixed before we can proceed with the slide project. That's why you only see a small amount for the slide project, which allows us to get, excuse me, RFP out for design work for the slide, but we need to get mezzanine fixed, and then we'll proceed with the slide replacement in 2026. The ceiling is, I believe, water blasting, if that's correct, to whatever the method might be, to remove all the rust and repaint all the trusses, and replace sound baffling.
Moving on to wayfinding plan, so that project was carried forward, didn't complete the work during the year. Into the arena, so again, there's a small capital budget for the arena of $60,000 and budget $75,000 for spray tank for the boiler water feeder. In parks, we have a budget of $75,000 for a wood chipper. Any questions or comments on any of the community services budget?
With the wood chipper and the amount of pruning that we actually do in-house, do we actually need a $75,000 wood chipper for that little amount of work that we did?
Oh, no.
Or are we doing lots more?
Oh, we are doing so
You're gonna
much more.
You're gonna do the river's edge?
Maybe not mulching. So.
Cut and chip?
Yeah, and our parks lead Amanda has been conducting all the elm tree maintenance this past fall. And we rented a chipper that sort of turned out to be a shredder, not really a chipper, because we couldn't find one in the region. So availability is a real issue. And she did all the trimming and I believe is continuing. I don't believe she's completed. So we plan on actually, as we proposed for that position, move as much of the tree trimming and maintenance in-house as possible. So our estimate to date is probably about a $15,000 savings. So the return on this wood chipper will be 5 years at the most.
So is this all on the ground, is this all on the ground trimming or? Is
Correct.
she actually doing spurs and
No.
or basket as well?
No, we don't have a bucket truck yet.
There's that fire truck, I'm sure it can be converted.
I saw your rope and spurs.
Okay, Councillor Carr and then Mr. Fisher.
You're on mute, Councilor Carr.
I'm just surprised that the $75,000 for the wood chipper. I was looking at wood chippers about a year ago and that must be some wood chipper for $75,000. I would hope we'd be shopping that pretty hard.
Diesel driven.
Yeah.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I just, because I think this is the first year we've had our parks lead, and I worked pretty closely with her because she was using the bins down here at Centennial. Just for our own internal operations, we were filling probably, we were going through a bin a day at least, just in terms of what our parks lead was trimming around the trails. And it was our first year kind of doing that program, but we have lots of catch up. And so I would say that we hauled away probably 30% more yard waste than we did. And the 30% more yard waste was directly our operation. So if we have a chipper, we can make use of that material, as long as it's not the elm stuff. The elm stuff is prescribed. But I do need to chip it to get rid of it. The rental, it's about $1,000 a week, and it was not a great unit for our operations needs.
You would have to chip the elm separately from everything else and use it in mulch.
We have to chip it and then dispose of
Yeah.
it, but the only way we can dispose of it is if we chipped it, because otherwise it was too onerous to get rid of.
With respect to slide replacement and yes, so what is kind of a guesstimate on that, you said it was in the 5-year plan that we wouldn't hear about something till.
For the slide cost or the timing?
I think the cost, because somebody said 2026.
Yes, so we would replace the tube and footings, pillars and footings in 2026. And I'm at a loss of what the projected cost was, 500,000-ish.
I thought so, because we have a special meeting with
Correct,
yeah,
end
right.
of the month. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any councillors, any further questions on this one? Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to infrastructure and development. Again, we've got a carry forward amount for Pat's Creek, Cheneville Dam control. Main Street sidewalk repairs, we're carrying forward just 555,000 from the prior year. And bumping that up in 2025 by an additional 150,000. We've also identified the pavement and overlay project, 2025, 750,000. So with that one, you'll see that we've proposing to pay for that by splitting it from CCBF, the bulk of the costs coming from there, with the difference coming from LGFF. Also included carry forward items, listing heavy replacement equipment, the water truck, the updated water bottle and master plan, 101st Street slope stormwater, and the 9th Street stormwater culvert repair. So all those amounts are carried forward from prior year. New items 2025 include the hydrant replacement, 160,000, sidewalk maintenance, 150,000, both to be funded through LGFF. The beginning of the big project, so the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, we're budgeting $3 million this year to be funded partially through other, well, it's all other federal, but it's funded through the province.
It's provincial, right? Yeah.
It's provincial, yeah. And the rest rather coming from utility supported debt financing. So again, there's about a $9 million grant. So far in our 5-year plan, we've got about 25 million budgeted for that project on the whole, spread it over the next 5 years in various phases. We've also got a 1 ton for hauling for $90,000. We've included the cul-de-sac on 91st Street's paving, 300,000 that Director Fisher had discussed earlier this morning, or this evening rather, with again, the breakdown being partially through local improvement and the residual coming from LGFF. There's also a small capital amount allocated for FAR. The waterfront, bulk water station panels, so new panels for bulk water station to get that operational, and also the crack sealing equipment that Director Fisher has discussed previously for $150,000, again coming from LGFF. So we'll take any questions on any of these items.
So, my favorite neighborhood improvement, how is it divvied up in here?
Are you talking specifically the mill rate piece?
Yes.
That is coming from our, tax supported reserve, correct? Yep. So anything that's, coming from tax supported reserve, that is funded by our general taxation revenues, whatever we don't spend, and then, that $500,000, was it, no? From the policy gets.
There's a
put in-
bill.
It's in there.
It's 1 million residential and $500,000 on non-residential.
So that just goes to the infrastructure reserve.
Okay, so say that you have a pavement overlay, I don't know, on one street that's the only thing it needs. Then I, in my mind, think, well, okay, that's like a mini neighborhood improvement, and that's where the 1 mil kind of went, or kind of goes.
Yeah, you could think about it like that. And certainly like when I think about infrastructure renewal, I don't think that you need to go into a block and gut everything and redo all of the things. I certainly think that there are opportunities for fine tuning, and selectively, doing pieces. So, some of it might be, spot replacements on sewer main or water main. Or trenchless options for rehabbing. Overlay is certainly part of what I would consider renewal and rehab work.
I guess I just don't want to lose the idea that 1 mil was in there for a reason, and I realized over time it kind of disintegrated, but it still was there for a reason to prevent that, what do you call it, when you have to pay for something immediately in front of your house. A local improvement. So I don't want that idea of somebody accessing the 1 mil so that they don't have a local improvement because this one little thing is done. It's still renewing whatever, so they shouldn't have to do the local improvement because it was already there under that philosophy, unless we're changing that philosophy.
Yeah, well, for local improvement, there's, they can petition for anything that they want. There's a local improvement, right? So if a neighborhood wanted us to come in and do the whole block, gut everything and redo it on a block, we could certainly approach them about doing that. It's not. It's
I think,
fairly expensive.
yeah,
So, but if we've already got a paved road, generally I would view, the cleaning up the road or overlay or rehab on the road surface as part of, like, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily an improvement unless they petition specifically for it to be done.
So they would not get charged extra on their tax bill because they got new pavement. Okay, as long as that's in mind, that's what I'm aiming for. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Hey, anybody? So how much pavement, would this, be the pavement overlay, wherever it was here? Is that like a kilometer someplace?
It's about 2 blocks. I'll have to go look at the area. But it's probably about 500 or 600 meters.
And where is this part being?
So tentatively, it's 91st Street in Lower West Peace. It's kind of finishing up the bit of work that we started in 2023.
So that is still part of that neighborhood improvement unless it's the cul-de-sac?
The cul-de-sac is neighborhood improvement. Local improvement.
Yeah.
Because we would be adding a service that they don't have by adding pavement. But the rest of it would be sort of infrastructure renewal.
Yeah. So, and how long a sidewalk would sidewalk maintenance mean here? Is it like?
So I got our Safe Sidewalks came in and did their assessment for the town of Peace River. So that means that they walked every sidewalk in town. They created a list of deficiencies. So anything that was lifted, any kind of gap, any kind of cracking, spalling, anything like that, it's all coded separately. What they've recommended is sort of a longer term spend. So I think it was about 600 grand, give or take. So over 4 or 5 years, 150 grand a year. It's not really intended to, when I've put it in the capital plan here, it's probably more appropriate in the operating side. Now thinking about it out loud, but it's more to kind of pick away at those issues. I'm not thinking wholesale block replacements. I'm thinking panels, trimming, cutting, jacking, kinds of things to improve walkability for the whole town and make that money go a lot further.
And some of the curbs are, I don't know, becoming more accessible.
Yeah,
that part of that.
That was certainly part of their identified. They identified a number of areas that should have pararamps that don't.
Thank you. Anybody else questions? Mr. Carr? No. Okay, like we're good.
Okay, so the next slide is our combined capital budget. So again, I presented it by sub-department just to kind of roll it up one level. But you're looking at about $7.8 million of budgeted capital spend as being approved as part of the proposed 2025 capital budget, of which we're proposing 1.2 million coming from tax supported reserves, 45,000 from utility supported reserves, 1.73 million from LGFF, 625,000 from CCBF, and then the $1,080,000 being related to the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Local improvement levy of 180,000, $1 million of tax supported debt financing for the new town hall building, and 1.92 million of utility supported debt financing for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So I included this slide, and it's got a few different pieces on it that I'll walk you through. So the first is our LGFF in the top left corner. So we had a carry forward balance. So January 1, 2024 carry forward. So this is unbudgeted as part of the 2024 capital budget, 1,081,000. We know our allocation for 2025 is 1,232,000. So combine that together is 2.3 million. We're budgeting a draw at this point in 2025 of 1.73 million, which would leave us a carry forward amount in LGFF of $584,000. So that would roll forward as being available to fund 2026 projects and forward. We also know we'll be getting an amount, I think it's very similar to the 1.2. I don't have that precise number on me, but we do know what we'll be getting for 2026 for that as well. So again, there'll be amounts, similar contribution for this 2025 available in 2026 to combine with that carry forward amount. On the CCBF, carry forward a much smaller amount of 176,000. We don't have the final number for 2025 yet, but just based on what it's been trending at over the past few years, we're anticipating 450,000. And we're looking to basically consume all of that as part of our 2025 budget, as part of our pavement overlay project. The bottom left-hand corner, so it's a little complicated, but this is our tax supported and utility capital reserves. And that is excluding our operating and unrestricted surplus. So as part of the town's 2023 financial statements, if you recall, in the accumulated surplus section at the top, we show an unrestricted deficit. That's a result of us having to consolidate our financial statements with Peace Regional Waste Management. So we own 3/7 of that entity, and they have an unrestricted deficit of approximately $2.2 million. So on consolidation, we pick up our share of that, and that's why in our financial statements, we're showing an unrestricted deficit of $860,000. Excluding that from this right now, we're just looking at what council has set aside as a reserve capital across both the tax and utility supported funds. So our restricted reserves for January 1, 2024 is approximately $12.5 million. We have a budgeted surplus for 2024. So again, this is excluding amortization expense, and this is also excluding amounts that are repayable as part of our long-term debt repayment of $2.2 million. And as part of our 2024 capital, we have approved draws from reserves of $3.7 million. So you add in your surplus, you back out your approved draws, and you're left with just under $11 million of restricted capital reserves as you roll into 2025. 2025, we're proposing a budgeted surplus net of long-term debt repayments of 1.8 million and proposed draws from reserves of 1.25 million. So again, that would leave us with an anticipated closing reserve of 11,500,000. So it's dropped a bit from our January 1, 2024. It's up a bit from where we're anticipating will be at January 1, 2025. But we do expect that these things will ebb and flow a little bit over the years as you take on and spend different size projects, right? We've had a couple of years where we haven't been spending as aggressively on capital. And so it's allowed our reserves to build up a little bit. One thing I will note, and it's been a very positive trend over the past couple of years, we previously had a very large unrestricted deficit on our books. We've, as an entity, basically ground through that. So now we've got an unrestricted surplus. So if you were to go back a couple of years, what we're showing as restricted reserves in our financial statements were largely offset by an unrestricted deficit. So a lot of times entities will have rules in place that it doesn't allow them to carry an unrestricted deficit on their books. They have to write down their restricted reserves by that amount. And so long and short of it is our financial position as an entity has improved pretty significantly over the past couple of years, and that we've been able to eat through that unrestricted deficit and get that number back in the black. So now effectively our reserves are funded. The last slide and again, this is just an extract from the 2023 financial statements I wanted to draw council's attention to, is our debt limit. So as at December 31, 2023, we have a total debt limit, which is defined in 276(2) of the Municipal Government Act of $47.98 million. So that's the limit. We were carrying 23.6 million, so approximately half. So an unused debt limit of 24,300,000. The debt servicing limit, which again, there's a description here as to how that amount is calculated. It's based on how much revenue. It's a formula involving how much revenue we have, was just under $8 million as a limit, and we were at 2.8 million of debt servicing. So I just wanted to draw council's attention to that, and this will be especially pertinent as we get into the 5-year plan, and you see some of the funding shortfalls we have in regards to how we're going to pay for things over the next few years. Having an eye on that debt servicing limit and you know, the requirements that we're going to have to fund some of our projects using debt. It's important to keep that in mind as we talk about proposed increases to taxes and even more specifically to our utility rates. So in conclusion, as I mentioned, the 2025 through 29 capital plan, the plan is to bring that before council on November 25th, along with this item will return, and we're also going to be bringing the 3-year operating plan and our tax supported and utility supported operating budget. So all of these items will be on the table for further discussion here in 2 weeks. And everything will then be brought back before council on December 9th for approval. So at this time, we're open to any input from council. If there's other items that you'd like to be considered, if there are items that we've identified that you feel shouldn't be on here, should be deferred. And this is an opportunity for you to reach out to the public and receive input from them. And again, we're open to any questions at this time. Thank you.
So councillors, any questions on, I guess really the presentation on capital tonight? Anything that's missing that we should be spending money on?
Second,
That we shouldn't be? Forget it, they're already getting another 2 or 3 trucks.
Well, we need another pumper.
Well, need as need. Anything further though? Right? The big one that's kind of uncertain, I think, is the new building and what the costs will actually boil down to there. And can somebody maybe help my memory? Are we looking at, we're getting an architect to get a plan together. Council's gonna have some input into at least the council chambers and maybe a room or 2. The other thing that, so are we looking at $1 million covering the whole thing? Whatever renovations need to happen, from the blinds to the floor to something, or we're only looking at the blinds and not the floor or something? Like is $1 million the whole thing or not? Yes, and why is I realize.
I think it's a good place to start. Provided that was a number that was palatable. I think that there certainly, as we're going through and have been looking at the building and getting things organized, there's some things that will be nice to have and things that will be need to have, and I think that we'll be trying to find a nice balance as we move forward with the process. I think having a nice accessible council chambers that is on the main floor that people can get into and out of a lot easier will be really important for the community. I think it's good for participation. I think that one of the things that we would like as administration in the new building to be included is a more robust space that we can use for emergency management if we have to. And, yeah, we're starting to get together the list of things that need to be done. We'll come back with more details as we go forward.
Well,
I can't even, I'm sorry.
sorry, no, I was gonna say that, I'm hoping that, staff and council will not have to kind of live through too much of the renovation. If they get over into the building and then it starts to be renovated around them, that sort of thing. But that's what I mean. Say, Miller, you thought had a question or something?
I know, I can't even get quotes on the AV for the council chambers yet, so to even say that's gonna cost so much, so it'll be a little while before we can come back with.
So the architect, where are we at?
Well, we haven't even selected it yet, we're working through that, so.
So
The new year, I would like to think.
I'm the bottleneck all over. I'm sitting on my desk at the moment.
good. Okay. Okay, anything else on the budget? Now is the time to ask. Someone care to put forth a motion then on this topic? Deputy Mayor Boychuk?
I'll put forward the motion to, accept the draft 2025 capital budget presentation for information purposes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We're clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, it is carried. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rutherford, and thank you, your staff, and, well, all admin for getting that one together. Next up, we have reports. So we have council event reports. I have mine there as listed. Any questions of it? Next one up, we have the September 12th Regional Energy Committee meeting. The reason it's so long ago is that the minutes are not to be distributed until they are formally accepted, which usually means another month or two down the road. So we have another meeting of that committee on this Thursday. Okay, there's no questions. Maybe someone would put forth a motion for acceptance of reports 9.1 and 9.2 for information. Councillor Good, so moves. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. It is carried. Information items, we have the communications package of November 1st. That was number one, is the letter that we're writing back to Alberta Munis about Brandon Liu, etc. Okay, number two, outstanding resolutions. So Alberta Munis has indicated there are 6 or so resolutions that were not able to make it into the discussion at the conference. And councils can either write in what they think about those resolutions or attend a November 28th webinar on that. I put my name up to attend the webinar. They look at comments there and then the board goes and votes on the resolutions. Okay. Anything else? Oh, the grant application letter with respect to a feature film and fee server. Can you speak a little more about what that might be, Ms. Miller? Or somebody?
Sorry, about the film, a letter of support.
Yes, like.
So there is a local film, actor, artist, producer, developer, yeah, sure. Who's in town, and she lives in town, she was raised here, and she is hoping to produce a feature film here. And is applying for a number of different grants, so through the Indigenous community grants and Film Alberta and Film Canada, whatnot, so we provided a letter of support in her application for that grant. If she is successful, she's gonna produce that or film that here. which would be a great start to breaking into the film industry. And we're gonna also help her in kind whatever we can to make it happen.
So my question a little bit on that, I noticed that a lot of, including her name, is redacted. So I'm just wondering why it would be.
I think we were just trying to protect her privacy at this time. I don't know really any other reason at the moment.
Okay. Maybe in closed one time, we'll get more information about who that might.
Oh, yeah, I think I should, like, yeah, I just feel out in the public, I wasn't sure she was quite ready to put that out in the public.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and other news, not in this council communication, but through correspondence, BC Hydro has indicated that the dam is filled as much as they need to fill it at this point in time, and they're starting to produce electricity as time goes on, even now. So the water will go up and down as electricity gets produced or not, I guess, and rain falls or not. So that's good news. And I understand at the end of the month, we might be having Alberta Transportation come to talk to us a little bit about the ongoing question of the bridge. And we'll all be interested in the newest information there.
I've seen flashing lights, trucks and all kinds of stuff there.
Okay, well, things are going forth again.
I'm getting asked about it in my family group chat on text, and I'm like, I can tell you, they're going to hire another contractor and they gotta redo.
Okay.
100 of those.
Okay,
That's
okay,
public.
yeah, okay, so anyways, under information, maybe somebody will move the council accept items 10.1 and 10.2 for information. Councillor Scammerhorn so moves, we're all clear on that one, all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
We're, it's carried. Are there any notices of motion?
There is none.
Okay. Comments from the public? I think we heard some. Key communication items.
Road
Okay, Rotaract. Bylaws, I would say. I understand there is a public safety survey out, so that will be attended to as well. Also, upcoming here, I think before our next meeting, we've got the 2A Senior Boys Provincial Volleyball happening November 21st, 23rd at Glenmary, and maybe other schools too, but Glenmary for sure. And the library is doing its Festival of Trees. And Deputy Mayor, November 18th, BBC's at the library. Want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, so they're doing two different things there. I'm invited to speak to them on Monday to just about our community, myself and about 9 or 10 other local residents there. And then they're doing an open house during the library open house the following morning.
Great. Anything else for key communication? If anybody wants to start on all the bylaws we went through tonight. Okay, so that might be it. We do not have any items in closed. And maybe somebody would like to cause the meeting to be adjourned. Okay, Mr. Ford moves adjournment at 8:35. All those in favor?